The maid Isabella brings a tray with cake and reminds Alicia about a snack. Alicia sits at her desk, contemplating the food shortages caused by the war, while Isabella comforts her. Shown is Alicia, the only daughter of the Emperor of the Eastern Empire. Despite her young age of 9, Isabella tries to console Alicia, reminding her that His Majesty is proud of her and will definitely share the victory with her. Alicia remembers her full and solemn name, Alicia de Rivetress, as the only one that truly belonged to her. The war scene shows an imposing emperor who started the war when Alicia was 6 years old and has now been going on for 3 years. Isabella assures Alicia that His Majesty will return from the war victorious. Isabella makes a promise to protect Alicia until the very end, which makes the girl grateful. Alicia muses that if she had magic, she would end this war herself. A magical witch of the White Night appears, possessing the power to grant people's wishes. Alicia realizes that she is the Witch of the White Night. Legend has it that sincere wishes made on the night of the full moon come true. People turn to her with requests to fulfill their cherished wishes. Alicia remembers being powerful and making her own wishes come true. For unknown reasons, she one day opened her eyes in another world. After losing her powers, Alicia was reborn as a girl who lost her mother at birth. The Emperor looks at her from the balcony, perhaps blaming her for his wife's death. Alicia notices that the Emperor abandoned her in the princess's palace, leaving her alone. She spent 9 years locked in her chambers, never seeing her father. Her nanny Isabella was the only one who showed love and care. Isabella says with a kind smile that it is raining very heavily. She carefully covers Alicia and warns her not to catch a cold in such weather. Alicia sits wrapped in a blanket and looks out the window in surprise. Isabella, looking at the rain outside the window, asks Alicia when she thinks the war will end, and she replies that she doesn't know. An excited man runs into the room and calls Alicia. Isabella indignantly asks why this man broke into the princess's palace without permission. The man reports with alarm that His Majesty the Emperor has fallen in battle. Alicia realizes that at the age of 9, she was left an orphan. The girl feels the strength she had lost earlier returning to her. Everyone will know that despite the losses, their country won the war. Alicia, wrapped in a blanket, asks her interlocutor his name after mentioning the Emperor's last battle. The man in armor calls himself Shubal Isel and apologizes to Her Highness. Alicia clarifies that he is from the 5th Night Division, then says that he missed something, quickly leaving. Shubal asks, confused, what exactly she means. Alicia sternly reminds that one must not barge into the princess's room without permission, no matter how urgent, and condemns such behavior. A frightened Shubal apologizes, and Alicia notes that her position as a princess does not justify neglect. Alicia reflects that after the Emperor's death, he had no other children and no one was appointed as his heir. Isabella runs after Alicia and asks where she is going, and Alicia thinks about her own right to become empress. A man in the council chamber loudly declares that a new heir to the empire must be found. The second advisor argues that the heir should be one of the surviving descendants of the collateral branches of the family. During a debate on the council, one member insists that the emperor killed all of his blood relatives after ascending to the throne, leaving the others at a loss as to what to do next. Suddenly, a powerful, energetic attack bursts into the hall, causing shock and panic among those present. The attack quickly reaches the center of the room, startling the council members, and Alicia's figure appears through the whirlwind. Alicia confidently walks up to the council, surrounded by magic and smiling, making it clear that she is ready for change. The advisors are shocked and ask who dared to occupy His Majesty's throne. One of the advisors begins to guess, pointing to the silver hair of the unknown figure. Everyone compares her hair and red eyes with the features of the former emperor and notices the similarities. The council suddenly realizes that Princess Alicia is standing before them. Alicia asks indifferently why they are surprised and wonders what the problem is. One of the outraged nobles slams his fist on the table, declaring that a woman on the throne is unacceptable and doubts the ability of the princess, who has always been locked in the palace, to become empress. Alicia looks at the advisor and coldly asks what family he is from. She confidently repeats her question, demanding to know the name of the advisor. The counselors are amazed at the strength of the 9-year-old girl, and Marquis de Mar of the Perrin family admits his own name. Alicia reproaches the Marquis for his narrow-mindedness and reproaches the ministers for their low level of ability to govern the country. Some of the advisors feel that Alicia's character is reminiscent of the late emperor, and she herself mockingly hints that her isolation does not make her an alien blood of the dynasty, and asks if they are looking for a controllable empress. The Marquis justifies himself, embarrassedly disowning such intentions. One of the counselors wonders if the entire assembly has succumbed to the pressure of a 9-year-old girl, considering the rest hopeless. Arnold Herdev of the Duke of Herdev's family stands up and formally greets Alicia, acknowledging Her Highness. He states that everyone cares about only one thing: Alicia's abilities as a contender for the throne. The council emphasizes that the imperial throne requires competence, and that it is unwise to pass the crown to a princess who has not proven her worth. Due to the ongoing war, many regions of the empire have suffered greatly, and someone is needed to solve these problems as soon as possible. Alicia clarifies that this is about the Empress's qualifications. The Duke asks if she can prove that she is worthy of becoming Empress. Alicia demonstrates her magical powers by creating a bright flash. She teleports one of the advisors, saying that he will see everything himself and tell the others. The advisors are amazed as they discuss the impossibility of instant teleportation and abilities of this level without magic circles. Some compare her to the Emperor, who had reached the level of swordsmanship at her age, marveling at the similarity. The scene shifts to a border village in the Eastern Empire, where Alicia arrives. She teleports along with the advisor and lands on the street, impressing those around her. Alicia reflects that she hasn't used magic for a long time, thinking that she lost her mana after reincarnation. But now she is surprised by its return. Alicia confirms that she specifically chose the destroyed border village to show the scale of the disaster, and surveys the extensive damage. When asked about her plans, Alicia begins to use magic, spraying gold powder. From that moment on, as soon as she waved her hand, people suffering from wounds began to heal completely. Destroyed buildings are restored and return to their original appearance. The food crisis disappears and there is enough food for everyone. Moreover, there is even more food for all the villagers. The delighted people are amazed at what is happening, and the Duke, confused, says that this is impossible. Alicia's magic blinds everyone, and someone asks if she is a god. Alicia teleports back to the palace with the Duke and is asked where she has been. She confidently reports that she has completed all restoration work in the borderlands. The advisors are amazed and cannot believe that recovery has occurred so quickly after the end of the war. One of the aristocrats demands that the Duke confirm whether this is true. The Duke confirms that everything was indeed restored in an instant. He explains that Her Highness simply raised her hand, and before their very eyes, the destroyed buildings returned to their former appearance, and there was plenty of food. Alicia thinks to herself that so much fuss is being made over such a small thing. She calmly informs him that she does not expect recognition for this small example. Alicia says with a smile that the most interesting things are yet to come and advises everyone to wait. Isabella is shocked by what she saw, which is understandable in such a situation. The next scene takes us back 9 years to a majestic castle in a thunderstorm. The little princess, who was supposed to be surrounded by blessings, begins her destiny immediately after birth. After her mother's death, the girl experienced her father's neglect and remained under Isabella's care. Against the backdrop of a knight's castle, it is shown how the empire was filled with the indignation of the people. Isabella wonders what crime such a small and innocent girl like her mistress could have committed. She hoped that Alicia would not feel lonely and vowed to always be there, remaining family to her. Having lived next to Her Highness for 9 years, Isabella thought she knew her better than anyone. But in the girl's recent look, she felt something new. Isabella admits that she has never seen Alicia like this before, and questions whether she is truly the princess she knew, as perhaps Alicia has been hiding her power all this time. Alicia turns to Isabella, saying that she must be in shock, and begins to explain what happened. Isabella invites Alicia to enjoy the beautiful weather, to take her mind off things a little. Isabella decides for herself that it does not matter what kind of person Her Highness is, and promises to always be by her side as long as she lives. From that day on, everyone bows their heads before Alicia, and the efforts to restore the imperial palace are hastily carried out. My official imperial education began. I had to master all areas of knowledge at the same time, since I had not studied these subjects before. For an ordinary child, this would be unbearable. But for me, it was not difficult at all. Senelet was appointed assistant to the emperor at the age of 17, and served him for 7 years. To survive under the rule of this hot-tempered and meticulous emperor and not lose your head is already an achievement. Senelet greets the heroine, addressing her as Your Highness. He reports that he has taken care to ensure that news of His Majesty's death does not leak out. The heroine reflects that spreading rumors about the emperor's death will only bring problems and agrees to avoid unnecessary complications. The heroes decide to postpone the funeral and discuss the arrival of a scientist named Debian. Debian Brooke, a noble mage, and the heroine's mentor in the study of magic, welcomes her. The heroine teases Debian with a smile for finally arriving on time, and he responds with indignation. Debian assures that he always puts his heart into his lessons and begins today's one. Debian brings a magical formula that even scientists and magicians cannot understand. The heroine says that he doesn't even try to teach her, but just wants to give her free answers. Debian is shocked and reacts very emotionally. He slyly notes that he knows it well, and therefore prepared a copy of the formula in advance, confirming his serious approach to the classes. The heroine takes the scroll and begins to write, while Debian watches with excitement. During the conversation, the heroine notes that the emperor was very talented and one of the few sword masters in the world, but even he died on the battlefield. Debian is not surprised that the death of the emperor led the empire into chaos, and the heroine notes that she heard about the enemy's dark magic. During His Majesty's final battle with the enemy king, a huge burst of dark magic was directed at him. A sudden powerful explosion engulfed the area, and nothing remained. When the dust settled, there was absolutely nothing left where His Majesty had been. A search party was sent out, but they found no trace of him, so they had to assume that he was dead. No matter how skilled he was in fencing, after all, he was only a human, and if his body and soul were completely consumed by dark magic, the chance of survival was practically zero. After the conversation, the heroine wishes goodnight, then goes to bed and remains lost in thought. She feels a little guilty towards Isabella, but after declaring herself empress, she has a lot of work. She notices that it is already late, looking out the window into the silence of the night. The heroine reflects that it is too dangerous for a child like her to walk around the palace at night, and it is also the perfect time for a kidnapping. At this moment, a brightly glowing magical portal appears in the room. The girl finds herself at night on a deserted street, illuminated by a magical light. She decides to use a special magical method, forming a magical light in her hands. The golden energy leads her to a suspicious house where strange people are standing. The magical trail leads into the dark dungeons, confirming her suspicions. Several frightened children are sitting in an underground cage. She appears before the children in a golden glow, surprising them with her sudden appearance. One of the boys is stunned and calls the heroine an angel. She whispers to the children to be quiet, promising to save them. The heroine notices 6 children in cages and suspects that the criminals could have kidnapped even more. Golden magic spreads throughout the dungeon, and the heroine wonders if these children are going to be used as slaves. The heroine notices the noise and reacts with caution, and the kidnappers are surprised by the open doors. One of the kidnappers sees the girl and, stunned, asks how she got there. The girl uses magic and immobilizes the kidnappers with golden ribbons of light. She tells the children to get out of their cages and asks if they don't want to go home. The children remain silent and admit that they do not know how to get home. Magically, they find themselves outside, where light appears around them. The heroine points to a glowing arrow, saying that if they follow it, they will find their way home. The children walk towards the arrow with joy and relief, and the heroine says goodbye to them and wishes to be careful along the way. She thoughtfully notes that this is not even a thicket and wonders why the villagers could not find these children. The council discusses the news that the princess has solved a series of child disappearances. The council discusses the terrible truth about the kidnapped children discovered in the underground prison. One of the advisors angrily states that there is definitely someone more powerful behind the kidnappers. The marquise expresses joy at the princess's actions, which allowed her to solve the problem. The advisor emphasizes that with the start of the war, the empire became unstable. But thanks to the princess, a ray of hope appeared. The council agrees that the princess's success proves her independence and leadership qualities. In the dungeon, the heroine accuses her tied-up kidnappers of being involved in the slave trade. One of the kidnappers denies his involvement, saying he knows nothing. The heroine reminds them that she is giving them one last chance to tell the truth, Otherwise, she has other ways to find out the truth. The kidnapper admits that they kept silent out of fear of an even more cruel person behind it all. He warns the heroine, saying that she does not know how cruel the woman running this conspiracy is. One of the kidnappers dies under strange circumstances, and the heroine watches what is happening in shock. She states his death and sarcastically calls it a banal development of events. Dawn illuminates a quiet village where people begin their day, contemplating the changes following recent events. The heroine notices that instead of children's laughter, there is still tension in the air. She dresses in a dark cloak, believing that it will be easier to remain unnoticed in this form. A large casino at the end of the shopping district appears on the horizon, catching her eye. The heroine realizes that this casino is the site of an underground auction where slaves are traded. In the crowd, she encounters a mysterious stranger who apologizes for the awkwardness. Feeling a strong presence of dark magic, she immediately begins to suspect the intruders. She walks away coldly, thinking that what happens in the casino is no longer her problem. At the entrance to the casino, guards demand a check for the presence of magical instruments. One of the visitors is scanned with magic, but, to their surprise, no violations are found. The heroine calmly goes inside, noting that her magic cannot be detected. She checks with the servants that she can now participate in the auction. One of the guests present shows a golden ticket, emphasizing its value. The heroine asks one of the workers to show her the way and visibly makes him nervous. Having confirmed the presence of the golden ticket, she is assured that it will be carried out immediately. She enters the main hall and is invited to enjoy the atmosphere. The focus is on an underground auction in a luxurious casino hall. The heroine, with a mysterious smile, promises to enjoy what is happening. The heroine decides to look around before the auction begins. She guesses that among the items on display, there are things available only to the ducal family. He is surprised to notice that even royal relics are sold here. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the speaker reports that those who were supposed to prepare the children were caught by the imperial family. The red-haired woman notes that the empire's strength has been restored after the war and suggests that they relax because her younger brother has prepared something new today. The heroine realizes from hiding that the red-haired woman is behind all this. A local shopper is amazed at how the lady's younger brother manages to source such unique items every month. The woman laughs and evades the question, and the heroine watches them and watches the purple potion being passed around. The heroine realizes that the vessel contains a drug that only dark magicians can make, called Untouchable. She reflects that such a drug is rare, because dark magic devours life and soul and is forbidden to people. The heroine reflects that even among dark magicians, only a top-class specialist can create a Untouchable, and the auction is about to begin. She understands that the auction organizer's plan is much larger than it seemed at first glance. A red-haired host appears on stage and greets the guests with warm words of gratitude. The woman introduces herself as Kira, the host of this auction. The auction begins with the reveal of the first lot, a ruby sculpture filled with divine blessings. The heroine is amazed to recognize the lot as the national treasure of the Kingdom of Lorette. It is illustrated that this object is the heart of the 12th bell, which is the pride of a small but sovereign kingdom, far from an empire. She is shocked by the recklessness of the organizers, because putting a national treasure up for an underground auction is madness. The host announces the start of the auction, and the room fills with excitement. The first bets are made, 2,000 and 2,500 gold, and the participants begin to compete fiercely. Participants in the auction raise their signs and place bids, one of which reaches 3,000 gold. There is suddenly a commotion in the auction room, and people in the room are asking worriedly what is going on. The auction host is confused and reports that there is a problem, asking guests to remain in their seats. An unknown person in a glove picks up a piece of jewelry with a red stone, and a mysterious internal monologue is heard. The auctioneer speaks with alarm about the theft of a national treasure and wonders who the perpetrator might be. The girl in the hood asks who is in front of her, holding the same jewel. The mysterious girl presents an official document and announces that she has arrived from the imperial palace to arrest the organizers of the illegal auction. The audience in the hall is shocked by the girl's statement and wonders if it is time for them to run away. The girl with red eyes warns that before they could leave freely, but now it is no longer possible. A magical seal with chains appears on the stage, blocking the exit, and the guests scream in panic. The auctioneer indignantly asks how anyone dared to hold an illegal auction on imperial territory. Someone mockingly tells the hooded girl that she looks like a brat and is pretending to be a representative of the imperial court. The man with the mustache accuses the heroine of forging documents and says that he knows about the death of the emperor. The man is outraged that someone is so stupid as to catch such a lie without fear of the imperial family. The girl explains that there is currently no one in the imperial family who can put the imperial seal and hints about her origins. The man is amazed by her silver hair, and the presenter is shocked. The girl notices with a smile how awkward the situation is. The presenter realizes that there is still someone left in the empire who can put the imperial seal. A girl in a raincoat comes out into the corridor after the incident. The maid happily hugs the girl, calling her majesty, and asks where she has been all this time. The heroine calmly replies that she simply broke into the black market and brought order there. The maid excitedly calls the girl Your Highness and takes her hands. The heroine notices that she has been feeling anxious lately. She asks what happened and if someone is bothering the maid. The maid remembers how she has been serving her for 9 years and worries that she goes to dangerous places without protection. The heroine realizes that they are talking about her and smiles. The maid asks to at least warn her where the heroine is going to go. The girl promises to always inform about her plans from now on. The maid happily accepts this promise and mentions that the advisor was looking for the heroine to discuss an important matter. The advisor greets the returning heroine and informs her that the ministers are waiting for her at the meeting, which surprises her. The heroine thinks that the ministers want to tell her something urgent, perhaps concerning her coronation. She asks advisor Senelette if he will follow her further. The heroine notes that Senelette always followed her orders, but is not sure of his true loyalty. She acknowledges that Senelette is the emperor's man and decides to simply watch him for now. The advisor states that for the sake of the safety and peace of the empire, he has only one task. Senelette gets down on one knee and swears to serve the son of the empire. The heroine admits with a smile that he did not disappoint her and gives her the task. The man reports that one of the palace servants has been taking money and leaking inside information. The heroine tells Senelette that he doesn't need to apologize for this. She reports that the rebellious count has already been arrested and instructs Senelette to find out who else took the money and did not keep their mouth shut. The girl says that now she must go to the ministers, who are already waiting for her. The ministers greet Her Imperial Highness the Princess. She sits on the throne and asks what the ministers wanted to say. The minister excitedly says that he hopes to see a new sun rise over the empire and asks for the empire to be protected. All the ministers bow before her and repeat their request to become the protector of the empire. The princess turns to the Minister of Finance and asks if he is ready. She gives orders to prepare everything for the coronation. The maid combs the princess's hair and takes good care of her. The maid smiles and asks if Her Highness is tired. The princess's memories show how during the time when the emperor protected her, everyone else turned their backs on her. But this maid was always there. As a child, the heroine remembers that the maid Isabella was the only person who stayed with her. Isabella tells the heroine with a smile that she will always support her, and the heroine resolutely promises to become empress. In the cold and lonely walls of the palace, only Isabella cared for her and helped her through difficult times. Isabella takes the heroine by the hands and says that she always believed in her being right. The maid asks to follow the chosen path and calls the heroine her only family. The heroine thanks Isabella with a warm smile. Isabella declares that if anyone dares to go against the heroine, she will be the first to stand up for her. Isabella announces that everything is ready and leads the heroine to the mirror in her coronation attire. The heroine looks at her reflection and says that she is ready to go. On the day of the coronation, Isabella admires the outfit of the new empress and admires her magnificence. Isabella smiles and hugs the heroine, demonstrating her support and ease before the big day. The heroine calls Isabella, who immediately asks with concern if everything is okay. The heroine smiles and thinks that she is ready to do everything for Isabella's true happiness. Isabella warmly thinks that just being near her is already happiness. After 9 long years of darkness, the heroine finally emerges into the light in the coronation hall. Everyone greets Her Imperial Highness as she steps forward ceremoniously. The girl climbs the steps to the altar, thinking that now she will be called Empress, and today is that day. A crown is placed on her head, and she feels that she has finally become the new son of the empire. The first servant of God prepares to place the symbol of the emperor on the new ruler. Suddenly, after the heroine's glance, a powerful explosion occurs, interrupting the ceremony. After the explosion in the coronation hall, one of those present comes to his senses among the rubble. A magical protective barrier appears around the main characters, saving them from destruction. The heroine reflects that such chaos cannot be created by an ordinary person. The inner voice of the unknown observes what is happening and expresses surprise at someone else's attempt to take the throne. A man in knight's armor with red eyes appears in front of the heroine. The man, whom everyone immediately recognizes, says with a serious face that he is now busy with what is happening in front of him. Those present in the hall are shocked and in fear call the man His Imperial Majesty. The heroine sarcastically compares in her thoughts the fickleness of people's opinions, and then asks herself if this man is really her father. The girl says that she sees the man for the first time, and therefore does not recognize him, after which he looks at her closely. She officially identifies herself as Alicia de Revere and her daughter, and the Knight Emperor orders her to be taken away. The girl mentally notes how nasty her father's character is, watching his gestures. She accidentally drops the crown and says her thoughts out loud, then is surprised that she said it out loud. The emperor becomes angry and points out that she has disobeyed the order, threatening her with his sword. The girl explains that she could not stand aside when the empire was in chaos, despite the prohibitions. The emperor asks if she is really so stupid that she is not afraid to die. She notes with a smile that her father is funny, because if he really wanted to execute her, he would have done it already. The girl looks straight at her father and assures him that he would have already cut off her head if he wanted to. The councils and ministers watch the confrontation, and the emperor himself suggests that she give up the throne and rest. The emperor remarks ironically that she really wants her head cut off. The girl calmly replies that she has no choice. If it is his will, she will give in today, but will return tomorrow. The heroine sarcastically thinks about her return, while the emperor orders her to disappear from his sight. She wonders why her magic suddenly wavered in the presence of the emperor. The emperor accuses her of trying to seize the throne, citing her disobedience to royal decrees. Isabella visits the heroine in her room and worries about her condition after the incident. Isabella notes that the heroine must be in pain because the emperor is still her family. The heroine consoles the maid, saying that nothing has changed in 9 years, and it is impossible to return to normal in one day. Isabella, smiling, offers to tell the heroine a funny story to distract her from her worries. The maid recalls the legend of the Witch of Eternal Night, who lives on the moon and grants one wish at the full moon. Isabella assures the heroine that she shouldn't worry and that everything will work out. The heroine is surprised by the maid's optimism, not understanding how to react to it. Every time the full moon rises, the maid prays for her mistress and asks her to grant the princess the power to fulfill whatever she wishes. The girl prays and asks for her wish to be fulfilled. The heroine thinks that she needs someone who will be just like him. The girl with white hair thinks she had a dream, but she can't remember it. The girl sits at the table, worried, and hears the address of Your Highness. She says she almost remembers, but can't quite put her finger on it, and the maid turns to her. The maid asks what she is thinking about and reminds her that she needs to eat. The girl remembers about food. The maid asks if something happened or if she had a bad dream. The girl is silent, but thinks that she needs to stop wasting time on useless thoughts. The girl calls the maid by name, and she asks with a smile if she needs anything. The girl happily suggests taking a short walk and promises to treat her to something tasty. The maid is amazed and notes that the teleportation was amazing and says that she did not feel any discomfort. The heroine explains that only novice magicians experience unpleasant sensations. The maid is worried that she didn't take the money because she wasn't planning on going out. The girl assures that she has some money. The maid is surprised and asks if this is related to her abilities, and the girl replies that it is nothing special. The girl says that she took money from the imperial treasury as payment for the work. The girl turns to Isabella and asks if it is true that she spent 9 years alone in this palace. The heroine suggests that they do whatever they want today. The girl and the maid take each other's hands and set off together. 2 employees greet new customers and announce that this is Gloria Boutique. The girl proudly shows off the golden coat of arms, and Isabella is surprised. The boutique staff offers to take them to the VIP room. Isabella whispers to the girl what she just showed the staff. The girl explains that she showed the imperial crest imprinted on her father's armor, and Isabella doubts whether it can be used. An order appears to send the invoice to the imperial palace and deliver all purchases to the princess's palace. The manager sums up the results, reporting that part of the gold from the imperial treasury has mysteriously disappeared. It also became known that the royal coat of arms had disappeared from someone's armor. The man with the document says that the palace has just received a bill for luxury purchases. He confirms that everything is correct and is surprised how the thief got through 20 protective barriers in the treasury and left no trace when he stole the gold. The man says he will deal with the situation. He reports something important together with a servant girl. The emperor reports that Princess Alicia has asked to have tea with him, but he refuses. The maid remarks that the princess will be disappointed, and someone talks about the flow of money. The manager looks worriedly at the empty chair and asks where His Majesty is. The emperor appears on the lawn among the trees. He notes that the weather is wonderful today. A girl with long blonde hair is having a tea picnic and says she decided to do this instead of having tea. The emperor asks with displeasure what she is doing. The girl is embarrassed, realizing that sitting on the ground is uncomfortable for the emperor, and a tablecloth is given to her so that she can sit down. The emperor and the girl sit down at a table under an umbrella, and she asks if this is better. The emperor is silent and then asks why she doesn't leave. The girl asks with interest what he means. The emperor says that she could very well leave and nothing will change if she stays. The girl replies that she has nowhere to go because this is her home. The emperor wonders in his mind if she thought he might kill her. The girl says with a smile that her father has a bad sense of humor and that he himself does not believe that this is possible. The emperor admits that he is not staying out of a desire to live and does not expect any perverted love. The girl admits that she is simply tired of living as if she is already dead and is exhausted by the monotony of every day. The emperor says that he does not want to continue living as a dead man, as he has for the past 9 years. The girl says that she never knew how many interesting things there were in this empire, and now that she has found out, she doesn't want to go back. The emperor is irritated in his thoughts, and the girl says that he had better get rid of her. She adds that she needs to leave before she becomes a problem. The girl barely holds back her magic due to her proximity to the emperor, and again mentally repeats that she has bored him. She remembers that the emperor should have killed her then, because now she herself will eliminate this fickle force. The advisor reports to the emperor that the empire has not held a debutante ball for 3 years. The advisor insists that it is impossible to delay any longer and says that there are young ladies who are already 16 years old, but who have not yet been introduced to society. It is one of the most important events for the empire, when noble girls are first introduced to society and usually make their debut at 16. Due to the absence of the emperor and the war in the East, the ball has not been held for the last 3 years. The emperor notes that the ball is a chance to formally introduce the princess to high society. The advisor thinks that the war has just ended, and the courtiers are already trying to please the emperor. The news of the debutante ball for the princess causes surprise among those present in the hall. The main character, confused, repeats about the debutante ball. The maid explains that the ball will take place at the palace in 2 weeks. The girl asks if she has to attend, and the maid explains that since the ball is also dedicated to the victory of the empire, she must definitely come. The maid adds that the emperor agreed to the ball so that the entire empire would know about the princess, and the heroine is surprised by her father's actions. The maid is concerned that the emperor does not think about their needs. She is worried that there is so much to do, and laments that they were warned at the last minute. The maid doesn't know where to start preparing, with the banquet or with the dress. She recalls that the princess didn't even learn to dance, and she, in surprise, asks again about dancing. The princess naively imitates dance moves, and the maid is confused about where to even begin training. There are 14 days left until the ball, and 2 weeks of frantic preparation begin. The first task is to create a design and sew a dress and jewelry. Next come the etiquette lessons. Dance training is held every day. The princess is tired and suspects that the emperor arranged all this on purpose. Countess Chanel, the dance teacher, reminds that there is almost no time left and asks to concentrate. The teacher was worried about the lack of time, but praised the princess for her impeccability, and the maid was sure that nothing was impossible for their princess. The teacher notes that she is being flattered and asks the princess if she has chosen a gentleman for the ball. The princess is surprised by the question about the gentleman, and they explain to her that usually a lady is accompanied by her father or a close relative. Those present decide that the princess's gentleman at the ball should be the emperor himself. Lying in bed, the princess realizes that she said this in the heat of the moment, because the emperor will definitely not dance with her. She sadly thinks that she doesn't need such a relationship. The princess wonders why she learned to dance at all if she doesn't have a partner. She feels disappointed and thinks that she wasted her time. The heroine, lying down at night, mentally turns to the Witch of the White Night with a request to grant her a child similar to him. She says she just wants to see her child, and the witch's voice notes that this is another request. The girl dreams of a family, so that the emperor would feel human emotions towards her and the child, so that they would be happy together. She asks for her child to be loved and hears that her wish will come true, because the Witch of the White Night is all-powerful. The princess wakes up in the morning and cannot remember what happened during the night, wondering what happened. The girl is surprised that she feels as if she has not slept at all, and notices that her face is swollen. The maid Isabella excitedly enters the room and calls her. The princess rushes to Isabella, who exclaims joyfully. She panics and asks if anything happened while she was sleeping. Isabella reports that the princess has been unconscious for nearly 10 days, and she is shocked. The princess, in shock, asks again if she really slept for 10 days, and asks the maid to clarify. Isabella explains that she was afraid for her health and thought the disease was incurable. The princess laughs with relief, glad to have woken up before the debutante ball. Isabella says that health is more important than any ball. Sitting down on the street, the maid once again asks with concern if everything is okay with the princess, and she smiles confidently and says that she feels fine. Debian runs happily along the path, and the heroine is surprised by his haste. She asks what brought him here without warning. Debian justifies that he couldn't warn her because she was unconscious, and the princess agrees with him. The princess asks if he came just to make sure she was awake, and he replies that he didn't. Debian suggests visiting the magic tower someday. The princess is surprised by such a rush, and Debian jokes that she will probably pester him about removing the magic seals, and therefore is categorically against it. He dramatically adjusts his glasses and asks if she isn't interested herself. Debian says that all the tower's mages are her people because they serve the empire. The princess refuses, citing preparations for the ball, but Debian replies that she does not need it at all. Debian immediately notes that it would be great if she took a look at the magic circle. The princess agrees with a smile and says, "Let's go." Debian takes her hand, and they begin magical teleportation. They find themselves inside the Eastern Empire's magical tower. The princess meets someone in the tower, who calls her Your Highness Princess. The wizards greet the guest with delight, are surprised by her visit, and ask if she used teleportation magic. The magicians happily inform Debian that he was able to bring the princess, and he replies that it was just an excursion. The scientists discuss whether the princess will test the magic formulas and receive a negative answer. Debian explains to his colleagues that Her Highness must be properly escorted. He asks the princess to be lenient and explains that everyone here is so absorbed in research that they sometimes forget about themselves. The princess ironically remarks that everyone in the tower is as strange as Debian, and he asks in surprise why she thinks so. Debian is a little confused, and the princess listens to his story about the most interesting part of the tower. He says that there are many different things here, and the princess asks if this is true. Debian says that there are amazing scrolls hanging on the walls. All of them are teleportation scrolls for movement. The princess points out that such scrolls are very complex, so their formulas must be kept on separate sheets. She is surprised that there are so many scrolls, and notes that Debian looks pleased for good reason. The girl's attention is drawn to a particularly unusual and suspicious scroll, which, as it turns out, leads to the dragon's lair. Debian explains that the scroll's magical energy covers a huge area, which is why they have to store it so carefully to avoid accidents, and asks if she has ever tried to get there. He adds that no one has ever returned alive from the dragon's lair, so they don't dare experiment with this scroll. The princess reasons that perhaps during this time, the creature there has already fallen asleep and turned to stone. Then she waves it off and suggests forgetting about this thought, immediately asking the question, why do they even keep such a dangerous scroll, and why try to preserve it? Introducing Rivetress, a mage from the Magic Tower who created a mysterious scroll. The princess wonders what the scroll is for, and learns that it is used for magical research. Debian notices stains on Raven's robe, and he explains that he accidentally spilled juice. Debian suspects that this is not just a stain, but something unusual, and begins to question Raven. Raven picks up a dangerous scroll and accidentally gets stuck to it. Debian panics and yells at Raven, asking why he grabbed the scroll. Raven sneezes and the scroll activates, transporting them to another location. They find themselves in the dragon's lair, which terrifies the magicians. One of the magicians screams in panic about the impending disaster and calls his mother for help. The princess looks around calmly while the others blame Raven for another disaster. One of the magicians notices with surprise that the princess is heading somewhere alone and calls her back. The princess calmly announces that they are returning and tells everyone to follow her. Debian assures those present that he will get them out of here alive. The mages happily admire the princess's determination and thank her for her confidence. The princess goes deeper into the dark corridor, illuminated by a weak light, and the magicians carefully follow her. Looking around, she warns that this place is full of traps and asks to follow only her. Inwardly, she remembers that she has been here before reincarnation and knows that the exit lies through the gate created by the dragon. Debian is surprised by her composure and praises her for her agility, but the princess laconically replies that this place does not frighten her. The princess remarks that she knows this place, and Debian begins to suspect that she has been here before. The princess suddenly grabs Debian by the collar, and her gaze instills fear in those around her. The princess abruptly throws Debian aside to protect him from danger, and he screams in fear. Everyone arrives at the marble dragon statue standing in front of the final gate of the lair, and notes that it looks creepy. The princess tells everyone to step back, and notices that everything here remains the same as in her past life. An inscription appears on the statue with the task of overcoming the fear of the dragon. Suddenly, a collapse begins. The magicians scream in panic that everything is collapsing. The princess realizes that this is not just the sound of a collapse, but the awakening of a dragon statue. She realizes that in order to get out, she needs to take the dragon's blow to open the way back. Everyone loses hope, and only the princess remains the only person who can withstand the dragon's breath. The dragon statue fires a powerful beam towards the princess, and she meets the attack head-on. Debian, completely shocked, rushes to the princess, asking why she did this and why she didn't dodge. The princess is surprised, and the magicians are perplexed as to how she was able to withstand the dragon's breath, even despite her royal blood. Debian is concerned about her condition, asks if she is in pain, and admits that he was worried and does not understand why she decided to do such a thing. The maid reproachfully asks her not to do anything dangerous anymore, admits that she will not be able to live peacefully if she worries about her, and the princess explains that she simply did what was necessary to return. The princess quietly calls out to Debian, then asks him to finally let her go, explaining that she is okay. Isabella meets them in the corridor and excitedly asks where they have disappeared to so suddenly. Isabella asks if the princess is hurt, and she replies that she is fine. Debian is just too worried. Isabella checks with Debian if everything is okay, and he admits that everything is fine with Her Highness, and he was just nervous. The princess sternly warns Debian not to say anything unnecessary in front of the maid, and he justifies himself by saying that he meant the magic tower. Isabella says she will bring something so that the princess can tidy herself up. The princess looks at Debian and asks if he wants to go to the debutante ball with her. Debian, smiling, says that it is a great honor for him and extends his hand to the princess, offering to dance. He asks if she understands that this is her first social event and an important debut, and if she is sure that she wants to go with him. The princess asks if he is worried that this will cause her to fall out of favor with the emperor. Debian sharply replies that he is not thinking about that at all, but is worried that she will be against his support at an important moment. Debian shares that society views unrecognized mages as outcasts, and he was often called crazy behind his back. He admits that he is worried about her reputation and does not want her to suffer because of him, and the princess becomes thoughtful. The princess notes that even her father never cared for her as much as Debian did. She assures Debian that she has long held the title of the exiled princess, asks him not to pay attention to other people's words and not to doubt. The princess tells him with a warm smile that she has chosen him as her gentleman. Debian sheepishly admits that he dances poorly, and the princess cheerfully leads him to the ballroom, convincing him that she doesn't mind at all. The day of the debut arrives, and the princess is prepared for the ball, seated in front of a mirror. The servants admire the heroine's appearance, call her dazzling, and compare her to a doll. Debian and Isabella are shocked by the princess's transformation and admit that she is magnificent. Isabella wonders how she managed to get hold of the royal carriage, and the princess explains that she had to make an effort to make sure everyone saw it. The princess thanks Isabella for her care and promises to return. In the hall of the palace, she is met and asked to go up to the second floor to attend the ball. The guests discuss rumors about the princess, her loneliness and inheritance, and guess about the reasons for her debut. The emperor appears at the event and is greeted with great pomp. The princess greets the emperor with restraint. He notices that she did not announce her presence. The hall officially announces the arrival of Emperor Rivetress and Her Highness Princess Alicia de Rivetress. The princess thinks she almost showed up at the debutante ball without a partner and almost became a laughingstock. She is glad that the scientist agreed to accompany her, considering it a great success. Debian is nervous and says that he didn't expect to meet the emperor so quickly, and admits that he even started sweating from excitement. He reminds her that according to the rules of the ball, she must dance at least one dance. The princess agrees with a smile and takes his hand. She assures her gentleman that they can handle it. Because he has been training, Debian excitedly promises to try his best. Suddenly, the guests scream in fear, dislocated by the alarming sound. The princess, confused, asks herself what that sound is. Guards with swords report an attack and order everyone to leave the hall immediately. A girl with white hair and a red bow yells at a man with brown hair to get the people out, looking worried. The white-haired girl, shouting indignantly, lifts the young lady lying on the floor by the hand. The girl near the destruction, bending down, calls not to panic and not to die in this situation. While in the exquisite building, the girl looks up in amazement, wondering why this is happening. A masked assailant with a dagger attacks a girl who covers her face with her hands in fear. A man with a sword and a worried face looks at the sky. Against the backdrop of the building, a battle is taking place, where a man in a black tailcoat fights with swordsmen, protecting those around him. A man with a sword and armor emerges from a building, showing determination and readiness to fight. A man with a sword approaches the girl, asking if she is okay, after which both are inside the destroyed room. A girl with white hair and red eyes stands over a body covered in blood, surrounded by signs of destruction and chaos. Along the wall, in the shadow of a column with a bloody trail, stands a man with a sword, and someone ponders why he could not use his abilities before. The blonde girl looks at Surasipa and asks him for his sword, stunning the knight with this demand. From above, a girl can be seen sitting on the floor, struggling with her attempts to control her mana, fearing that if she fails now, the consequences will be fatal. The girl grips the sword tightly, instilling confidence in herself, and repeating that everything will work out if you believe in yourself. There is a bright flash of blue light. The fragments fly apart, and magical power is born. A powerful wave of ice spreads across the hall, and snow patterns appear around the main character, mesmerizing the enemy. The girl walks calmly with a sword in her hand, and behind her lies an immobilized enemy, bound with magical fetters. The girl wipes the blood from her lip, thinking about the long-gone Debian. The wounded girl calls out to Debian, who lies unconscious, barely touching the floor with his hand. In a spacious room, Debian lies lifeless on the sofa. A girl stands next to him, watching him. The girl reflects that even the heir to the throne ran away, and this man was left to save people alone. A golden glow appears above the man lying on the couch, and the girl comes closer, preparing to use magic. The girl sits in a chair and complains that the imperial palace is mired in chaos, reflecting on the actions of the emperor. A young man enters the room and addresses a girl, and she immediately asks about His Majesty. The girl and several adults gather around a large bed, on which lies an unconscious man covered with a sheet. A close-up of a man on a bed is shown, with reflections on his critical condition after being struck by dark magic. The girl asks the doctor when the man will wake up, and he, confused, replies that they are still monitoring his condition. The doctor clutches the folder in fear and explains that His Majesty is very exhausted due to the war. The girl looks at the doctor with a stern, intent gaze, her face covered in red shadows, creating an atmosphere of tension. She clarifies that, in other words, no one knows when the man will wake up. The servant falls to his knees before the angry girl, justifying himself by saying that they are doing everything possible to restore His Majesty. The secretary whispers to the girl the news that Lady Kira has escaped. The young man reports that during the turmoil, Lady Kira disappeared, and if the emperor is absent for a long time, the girl will have to take up state affairs. The girl is thoughtfully worried that if her father wakes up, he might think that she was trying to seize his throne again. A man with blue hair worries about dark circles under his eyes and recalls running a business for 3 years during the war. The girl, pressing her palm to her face, asks the man if he has found the epicenter of the explosion. It becomes clear that both the source of the explosion and the intruder's entry come from the palace's underground prison, and the attackers are connected to Kira. The woman appears against the dark backdrop, continuing her investigation and recalling how someone got into the hall past the security. The girl, with a mysterious half-smile, concludes that there is a rat in the palace. With cold determination, she orders that all those involved be found, including Lady Kira and all missing prisoners. A girl in a red dress lies on the couch and thinks that they were going to track Kira down through the casino. The map shows confusing tracks, and the voice notes that it is unclear which one is the real one. Kira cleverly confuses the investigation. The girl sighs on the sofa and admits out loud that she is very tired. She reasons that she doesn't know who Lady Kira really is, but everything that's happening is clearly not the work of 1 or 2 people. The heroine is perplexed as to why she has to sort everything out, and is even worried that if all the work is done, the emperor will not like it. With a golden glow in her palm, the girl thinks that what worries her most now is magic. She takes a close look at her glowing magical powers and realizes that she must figure out what is going on with her magic. The 2 maids turn around in surprise and start talking warily about something. The girl carefully looks through the door, holding her finger to her lips, and hears someone addressing her. The maid notices how the girl quietly approaches the bed of the unconscious man. The girl reflects that her proximity to the emperor really prevents her from controlling magic, and she can't even use her power normally. In a comedic manner, the maids discuss how amazing the princess is, because she even talks to the unconscious emperor. The girl comes to the conclusion that, as expected, it is not easy to find the emperor's weakness, but magic is connected to him. One of the maids is surprised that the girl is already leaving, and the heroine, with her head down, heads towards the door. The emperor suddenly opens his eyes and addresses his interlocutor with the words, "Your Highness." The blue-haired count reports to the emperor on the progress of the matter, mentioning the explosion at the princess's debut. The advisor reads the report and clarifies that Her Highness herself is personally conducting the investigation, and all escaped prisoners have been captured. Kira is shown against an ominous background, noting that her whereabouts are still unknown. The advisor concludes the report by saying that this is the end of the report, and notes that at such moments, the father and daughter really are alike. The emperor gives orders to continue the investigation as the princess ordered. Kira, wearing a black cloak and with a sly smile, confidently emerges from the shadows, surrounded by her people. She declares against a backdrop of crimson flames that the conquest of the Eastern Empire is only a matter of time. A girl in a green dress receives an elegant written invitation to tea from Elizabeth Herdev. The maid is delighted by the invitation and is convinced that tea is a wonderful opportunity. The heroine thoughtfully asks who Elizabeth Herdev is, and she is reminded that she is the Duke's daughter and is about the same age. The courtier remembers Elizabeth and confirms that she is the Duke's daughter, and the heroine reflects that she should take advantage of the chance to socialize. The maid enthusiastically suggests that after the debut, it is useful to communicate with peers. The girl agrees to pass on the invitation and promises to come, which delights the maid. She smiles and suggests taking a stroll through the rose garden to prepare for tea. Walking through the garden, the heroine and her maid admire the beauty of the flowers and are proud of the imperial garden, carefully holding hands and discussing a possible meeting with His Majesty. The girl is surprised and asks if Isabella is afraid of His Majesty, and she mumbles an embarrassed response. Isabella admits that she is afraid, and the girl jokes that the emperor is no scarier than a hissing cat, and assures that if they meet her father, they will simply say hello and move on. The heroine asks Isabella if she wants to know something interesting and begins to tell about the secrets in the garden. She reports that there is a teleportation magic circle hidden somewhere nearby, and Isabella listens in surprise. Isabella replies in amazement that she has never heard of such a circle. The girl explains that her father created this magic circle, and a shining pattern appears on the path. The princess smiles and invites Isabella to test the magic circle together. A frightened Isabella refuses in a stream of phrases, reminding him that the author of the circle is His Majesty, and she would not dare. The girl tells Isabella to stay and enjoy the garden, while she quickly goes to check the circle. Smiling, the heroine promises to only glance at the circle, noting the excellent taste of its creator and drawing attention to the strange lines on the floor. The girl approaches the sparkling pavilion and steps on the activated magic circle, wondering in surprise if he is here. She smiles in the sunny clearing, pleased with her discovery. A man sleeps under a tree in the rays of light, and the girl wonders why he chose such a place to rest. She watches him carefully from behind the tree trunk and doubts that even with magical protection, the emperor can sleep so carefree because he has not yet recovered. The girl mentally admits that at such moments, the emperor does not seem scary at all. The heroine sits down next to her father, who is still sleeping, and gently touches his face. She smiles cheerfully and says easily, "What a beautiful day, father." The emperor looks at his daughter with bewilderment and asks how she got here. The girl laughs and explains that it was not difficult for her. The father stands up next to his daughter and asks in amazement, "What are you?" The girl looks at the emperor and says that she doesn't understand what he's talking about. The emperor angrily asks her not to pretend and insists that she will not leave until she answers his questions. The heroine turns to him and asks a question. With bewilderment in her eyes, the girl asks him, "What are you?" The emperor coldly replies that he is not here for word games and demands that she figure out who she is, the true heir or a mask. The girl recalls how she had to defend the palace while the imposters caused chaos. She adds that it was she who protected the people while the emperor did nothing. The girl wonders if a man who failed to protect his people is worthy of being called an emperor. The heroine emotionally reproaches her father for not being able to take care of himself and demands an explanation as to why he lost consciousness. Tired of the dialogue, the girl says that since he doesn't want to communicate, she's leaving. The emperor watches a scene in a hall where, against the backdrop of destruction, a little girl stands in front of a column. He walks down the stairs, showing determination and readiness for action. Suddenly, purple energy flashes appear around him, indicating a dark influence. The emperor notices a barrier of dark magic, which begins to gradually weaken him. He can barely stand the impact of the barrier and looks down, uttering the word "damn" with irritation. On the street, a girl in a pink dress emerges from the palace in the sunlight, accompanied by an attentive knight. She is greeted by another young girl, thanking her for visiting and inviting her. The heroine recognizes her interlocutor as the same girl from the palace on the day of her debut. The girl offers her hand to the heroine, confirming her guesses and openly beginning a dialogue. The scene ends with the young girl thanking him for saving her during the chaos in the imperial palace. The girl remembers how the heroine fought against the intruders, using chain magic to protect the people of the empire. The southern inviting girl sincerely admits that the heroine was probably also scared during the battle. The heroine sheepishly agrees that everything that happened was alarming. The southern girl asks with delight how the heroine learned to use magic. The heroine explains that she never studied magic. The southern girl is surprised and tries to understand how, in this case, the heroine managed to use magical abilities. The heroine explains that she simply relied on instincts and accumulated experience. The southern girl curiously asks what exactly her interlocutor's magic is capable of. The heroine smiles and offers to show her capabilities a little. Together, they find themselves in the midst of a wide, muted stage where the saga enters a new magical plane, like a dream. The girl confidently suggests continuing on her way and making the most of the trip. She and her friend enter a bustling city full of people and colorful details. At the city bazaar, they approach a counter where the seller greets them with a smile. A friend admires the exquisite dream catchers decorated with the moon and stars. The saleswoman explains that these souvenirs symbolize the White Night Witch and make wishes come true. The girl feels a strange sensation when she sees dream catchers associated with a mysterious legend. The saleswoman notices her friend's interest and asks their opinion about the legend. My friend enthusiastically admits that she loves this fairy tale and still makes wishes about it. A friend holds up the ornament and shares plans to hang it by her bed to make a wish. The heroine thoughtfully notes that the White Night Witch seems to be keeping something special within herself. The heroine, among the crowd, thinks that there are too many people and wonders whether she should teleport out of here. The girl gets lost in the crowd and looks back, hearing someone calling her milady. Her friend in the blue dress cries in fear, afraid that she will not be able to return home. In a dark alley, a friend is suddenly called out by an ominous voice. An old man wrapped in a black cloak appears before her with a staff. The old man politely addresses her, inviting her to come closer. The girl timidly approaches and asks what he wants. The sorcerer shows her a shining mirror, claiming that it suits her perfectly. The friend, as if hypnotized by the purple aura, whispers that the old man is right. The sorcerer smirks, saying that the mirror is only worth 2 silver coins, and her darkened face flashes in the reflection. In the pouring rain, a hooded stranger hands a shimmering orb to a white-haired girl, while her dark-haired companion watches warily, and a blade slips from the stranger's sleeve. The old man in the cloak screams in horror, trying to stop what is happening. The white-haired girl releases a dazzling golden spell and sharply demands an explanation from her opponent. In a bright salon, over tea, a dark-haired girl admits through tears that she was afraid of never seeing her parents again. The white-haired girl consoles her friend, handing her a piece of cake and assuring her that it's all over. Bowing in gratitude, the dark-haired one whispers of her eternal debt, and the savior shyly rejects the praise. The scene of her terrible spell flashes in the heroine's memory, and she internally repeats the warning to the enemy. In a narrow alley, the cloaked sorcerer runs away in panic, screaming that he knows nothing, while the girls feel a surge of dark magic. In the tea house, 2 maids are discussing in low voices why there are so many warlocks in the Empire. Sitting alone in the garden with her back to us, the white-haired girl thoughtfully listens to a distant conversation and anxiously realizes that the number of dark magicians is rapidly growing. The dark-haired maid happily treats the white-haired milady to dessert at the tea table in the hall. The girls laugh, and the dark-haired one feeds her friend a cake, receiving a quiet thank you. Looking at the cloudless sky between the houses, the heroine decides that she will have to conduct a thorough investigation. Towards evening, the alarmed butler and his maids rush to the gate, calling for the missing girls. At the gate, he sternly scolds both young ladies for disappearing and forcing everyone to look for them. In the garden, the senior servant places a caring hand on the dark-haired girl's shoulder and asks if they have notified her father. An officer in epaulettes approaches the gate and solemnly greets the princess, next to whom stand girls. The man introduces himself as Duke Herdev, bowing with his hand on his heart before the assembled servants. The white-haired and dark-haired girls awkwardly explain that they just wanted to take a walk to the sea and unnecessarily alarmed everyone. The surprised Duke asks again about the sea, and the white-haired girl clarifies that she took her friend to see it for the first time. The girl in the blue dress thanked the Duke with dignity for the wonderful day, walking next to him through the palace. The white-haired heroine says goodbye a little shyly, hoping for a new meeting. In front of a luxurious carriage, a servant helps the princess set off on her journey. The white-haired heroine, standing in the rays of the setting sun, turns around with slight sadness. The dark-haired girl happily takes the Duke's hand and leads him back to the palace. The heroine, lowering her head, internally admits that Isabella has become her only real family. With tenderness and hope, she thinks that this girl will be able to know true love and be happy. Inside the carriage, a servant asks the princess with concern if everything is all right. In a dark office, a man tells his boss that the princess is a magical monster and receives confirmation. The scarlet-haired woman smirks and notes that the emperor ignored his daughter for 9 years. In a room with deep shadows, someone holds an hourglass in his hand, thinking about the girl who has recently started living outside the princess's palace. Cadell Rivetress, king of the kingdom of Rivetress, mockingly reflects on the emperor's stupidity in rejecting the princess for personal reasons. Cadell's name is called, and he is suddenly surprised to hear a familiar voice. Coronation Rivetress, princess of the Rivetress kingdom, and Cadell's older sister, appears at the door. With the clink of glasses, the brother rejoices that his sister is safe, and Coronation thanks him for the timely help of the knights. The sisters are chatting on a cozy balcony. Coronation notes that even though the emperor survived the war, they still got something and asks about the report. Cadell confirms that he has received information about the contradictions between the emperor and the princess. Caudel also reports that the Emperor has become extremely vulnerable to dark magic, and they may spread more darkness throughout the Empire. Cadel, with a sarcastic smile, reasons that the Emperor renounced his own daughter because of his love for his already dead wife, despite the princess's strength. Kiraseri smiles and states that the split between the Emperor and the princess is to their advantage, as she can be used for their own purposes. Cadel and Kiraseri raise their glasses, rejoicing that the Eastern Empire will soon fall to the kingdom of Rivetress. There is a sense of anticipation outside the window, because there hasn't been anything so interesting for a long time, and the interlocutors agree with this. The Snow-White heroine lies on the bed and complains of boredom. She invites Isabella to have some fun, but the maid is surprised that the princess has just returned from the sea. Isabella suggests reading her favorite books and puts a stack of volumes on the table. The princess takes one of the books and suddenly decides to call the maid to go fishing. Isabella gets scared and refuses, saying that even looking at one picture is scary and catching something is too dangerous. The princess insists, assuring her that she will be careful, but the maid categorically refuses, especially because of the mention of the kraken. Sad and upset, the princess asks again if it is definitely not allowed, and the maid worries that she might be eaten. Smiling brightly against the golden background, the princess decides that she will quickly go down on her own and will definitely be careful. The calm surface of Kraken Lake in the Western Empire sparkles in the sunlight. A girl with white hair comes to the water and is surprised at how huge the lake is. The heroine activates the magic, brightly sparkling with golden spirals in the sun's rays. A giant kraken with red eyes appears in the depths, and the girl ponders how to start hunting it. The monster rises sharply out of the water as the heroine watches from the shore, and a storm of spray falls around. The girl notes with a smile that it is convenient when the kraken crawls out onto dry land itself. Looking at the tentacles rising from the water, the heroine decides that if she ties them together, she can defeat the beast. With mischievous confidence, she uses magical chains to bind the kraken, believing that fishing will be easy. The huge tentacles are securely wrapped in golden chains as they emerge from the water for the last time. The entire figure of the kraken, chained and angry, appears on the surface of the lake, and ominous black streams swirl around it. The water begins to look strange and dark tentacles emerge from it. A girl with white hair notices a huge head of a creature, chained in gold chains. The girl is outraged that someone could poison an entire lake. A girl notices a boy sitting alone under a tree in a sunny clearing. The boy looks forward in surprise with fear on his face. The girl wonders how long the boy has been here, and whether it has anything to do with the kraken. A girl with yellow hair approaches the boy, and a conversation begins. The boy is frightened and sees the creature's huge head, still chained in gold, next to the girl. The girl says that she no longer needs anything, and thinks that she cannot bring Isabella a kraken soaked in poison. The boy thanks for being saved. The girl tells the boy to stay away from the lake. She explains that it is unknown how many more krakens lurk in the depths. The boy listens carefully and answers that he understands. A shining golden magical glow appears in the house, attracting the attention of the maid. The maid calls out to her mistress in fear, seeing her silhouette blinded by magic. The maid helps the girl and reminds her of her promise. The girl justifies herself by saying that this time she at least warned where she was going, and confidently adds that she is not in any danger. She says that despite her strength, the maid should be taken with her wherever she goes. The maid says with alarm that if something happens outside her field of vision, she will be very worried. The girl agrees that she will take Isabella with her and asks where they will go now. The young servant apologizes for the interruption and suggests going to Rena's lake in the kingdom of Rivetress. The girl repeats the name of the lake in surprise and wonders if she had this servant before. The servant confirms that it is a large, clean lake with clear blue water where people come for picnics. The girl resolutely agrees to go there. The company teleports and finds itself on the shore of a beautiful lake. The servant admires the ease with which the teleportation magic was used. The girl notices that, as expected, there is something interesting here, and the maid asks again in surprise. The girl in the yellow dress smiles happily and says that everything is fine. She happily says that fishing is fun, and everyone admires her success. The servant notes in amazement that her abilities are truly incredible. The servant admires the fact that His Highness is a genius who can guess, and this turned out to be absolutely true, and the girl replies that nothing is impossible for her. The girl reflects on what an honor it is to serve such a genius personally and says that she trembles before her devotion. The servant asks if she can walk on water. The girl replies that on water it is as easy as on land. The girl with the fishing rod confirms that she can indeed walk on water, explaining that she simply needs to levitate and step forward. The girl exclaims that she wants to see it, and someone below asks if he is sure. The girl asks if they really want to see her walk on water. The servant exclaims in the affirmative. The servant asks how impressive it is to watch the girl walking on water. The maid marvels that this is incredible, and the servant laughs and asks if she knew about this before. The maid looks at him in surprise, asking a short question. A woman with red eyes is in the center of a magic circle. The servant approaches the girl and offers to visit the lake in the kingdom of Rivetress, adding an apology for his behavior. The girl notices the servant's accent and decides to play along to see how far he will go. She activates a defensive spell with a teleportation element that maintains control over movement. A woman surrounded by magical symbols notices the chaotic approach of the king of this kingdom. She warns that she will kill anyone who catches her eye again. The maid runs into the room screaming, saying that the imperial princess is now in Rivetress. A man with blue hair and a surprised look says Your Majesty and holds papers. A man in a formal suit sitting at the table gives the order to summon the ministers, demonstrating the seriousness of the situation. The woman with red hair thinks that the heroine turned out to be an ordinary child, despite her external importance. The princess is compared to a bird that was trapped in a golden cage and surrounded by chains immediately after arriving in Rivetress. The young man inquires about the fate of the princess's nanny and receives the answer that she was sent back to the empire to confirm the princess's whereabouts. A woman with long red hair advises her companion to go to the girl, who is about to wake up. A woman asks a man about the similarities between the princess and the emperor, receiving confirmation. The church representative says that the princess used magic to appear older, but her aura is exactly the same as the emperor's. One of the sisters is eagerly preparing to go to the captive, and the other promises to join later. The princess sits in the center of the magic circle, on a chair, with her head bowed and her hands cuffed, being under guard. The woman, with a cold voice, declares that she cannot stand the silver color of the captive's hair and feels disgusted. The princess notes that she has a magical seal that blocks mana, and for now she can only watch how events unfold. The woman leans over to the weakened princess and mockingly asks if she is awake. The princess angrily orders him to move away and questions the words about the imperial little one. The woman notes that the princess has a sharp tongue, but resistance is useless due to Rivetress's special magic circle. The princess asks defiantly if such a trick can stop her. The woman promises that an epic spectacle awaits her ahead, and the princess herself is perplexed as to what it will be. The princess ponders thoughtfully whether the emperor of the Eastern Empire is really so heartless as not to save his only daughter. She thinks she can't wait to see how her father will react to finding out his daughter is in captivity. The woman notices the appearance of another lady and looks at her in surprise. The princess, seeing her, asks herself in bewilderment why this woman is here. The woman with long red hair hands the magic sphere to her ally and tells her that the message has already been sent to the emperor, and the princess realizes that it is a recording sphere. The faces of the emperor and the advisor appear in the purple magic sphere, and someone commands to convey a message. The woman greets the emperor through the magical sphere, enjoying his reaction. She shows the emperor her captive daughter in a magic circle with a smile, asking about his feelings at this sight. A woman with a knife declares her intention to kill the imperial princess today. She adds that if the emperor personally comes to save the girl, he can postpone the execution for a day. The woman, with an evil grin, asks whether the emperor has enough determination to drag out time for at least one day. The magic sphere suddenly shatters with a bright flash. The princess is amazed to realize that the emperor has just broken the connection, which leaves everyone in shock. The red-haired woman says, with a grin, that her father does not feel an ounce of love for his daughter. The girl hears cruel words that now without magic and abandoned by her father, she will have to decide her own fate. The woman confirms with a smile that the girl is indeed abandoned. There is a powerful explosion that changes the course of events. The princess emerges from a cloud of smoke and says that she didn't see anything funny. She crosses the room with a gloomy face and asks sarcastically if her enemy is having fun now. The enemy calls the princess an even greater monster than the emperor himself. The woman explains that those who seem closest are the ones who betray most often. She questions whether the princess considers the emperor her family, reminding her that they are related only by blood. The enemy asks what the princess is going to do next, watching her in the dust. The emperor appears in the background, and the thought of leaving him appears if he is indifferent to her. The woman offers the princess to become one of their people and accept the enemy's kingdom. The princess indignantly asks what nonsense her opponent is talking about. The red-haired woman asks sarcastically whether the princess intends to remain faithful to her father, who abandoned her. She promises to bring a nanny, adding that a nanny is a real family for a princess. The woman states that she only needs one thing, for the princess to become her source of power at the right moment. The emperor is puzzled that the magical veil has collapsed on its own. The emperor's advisor is trying to understand in his thoughts what plans Rivetress is making. The council meets in the throne room, and someone suggests raising an army immediately. But his interlocutor fears a new war after the recent end of the previous one. One of those gathered states that the situation is complicated and that the kidnapping of the princess is tantamount to a declaration of war on the part of Rivetress. There is a fear that if Rivetress uses dark magic, the Empire's victory is not guaranteed. The Emperor calls out the name Senelet, and the advisor confirms that he is listening to his order. A gray-eyed man with crimson eyes sternly orders his subordinate to gather an army. In a huge, almost empty banquet hall, two red-haired aristocrats are having breakfast at a long table. A white-haired princess in a black patterned dress confidently enters the hall. The red-haired lady smiles sparingly and gestures for the princess to sit down. Sitting down, on the contrary, the princess glances irritably at her annoying interlocutors. With her arms crossed and a frown, the princess asks if they are related. In a comical insert, the brother and sister animatedly confirm their relationship, and the princess inwardly chuckles at their pathos. The princess coldly accuses the red-haired man of organizing the attack at the debut ball and the illegal auction. The man grins and shamelessly confesses, boasting of his knowledge of dark magic. The red-haired woman angrily slams the cutlery into the table, releasing a furious burst of energy. The princess jumps up and asks with a dark menace in her voice if they are joking now. The agitated brother gloomily sinks into a chair at his sister's stern command. The woman explains in a calm tone that the attack on her debut was a necessary measure, and that her brother saved her life. The princess narrows her eyes and notes that her interlocutor is suspiciously happy under such circumstances. Smiling, the red-haired lady replies that she has every reason to be happy. She lists her blessings, a reliable younger brother at breakfast, and a new ally in the family, glancing at the princess. The princess chuckles and says that it looks like she will have to hold the other side alone, wondering whether to continue. The vision reveals a swirling vial of cashanal poison and reaching hands, symbolizing the spread of the potion and black mages across the empire. The next flashback shows the red-haired woman in front of a crowd at an underground slave auction, while the princess demands an explanation. Bowing her head and pressing her hand to her chest, the red-haired lady apologizes, assuring that she did not intend to sow chaos in the empire. The red-haired lady swears that something like this will never happen again. The princess, realizing Rivetress's close connection with the Eastern Empire, asks demandingly what is wanted from her. The smug brother, crossing his arms, promises to reveal the plans once the preparations are complete. Smiling, the princess agrees to wait and see what happens. Meanwhile, the maid in the black and white dress dives into the depths, horrified by the thought that she has perished. In the watery darkness, she reaches out to the ghostly image of the girl, vowing not to die for the sake of her queen. Losing consciousness, she closes her eyes and mentally asks for forgiveness for letting Her Majesty down. A woman with brown hair suddenly wakes up in bed, screaming Isabella's name. The princess leans over her and asks worriedly if Isabella was having a nightmare. A touched Isabella rushes to embrace her empress with tears, calling her Your Majesty. Isabella looks at the princess with concern, asking if she is hurt and if everything is okay. The princess smiles broadly and assures the maid that she is fine. Sitting up in bed, Isabella looks around and asks in confusion where they are. Startled by the realization, she hears the answer that this is the kingdom of Rivetress and they will have to stay here. The princess gently offers Isabella the opportunity to return to the empire if she wishes. Isabella grabs her hands tightly and declares that she cannot leave her mistress alone in enemy territory. With a sincere smile, Isabella says that she has nothing to fear next to the princess and asks her not to worry. In a comical interlude, Isabella does admit that the rumors about the sorcerer king of Rivetress worry her a little. The miniature princess cheerfully advises in response not to worry. She adds with a carefree sparkle that, in the worst case, they will simply kill the king. The two advisors anxiously discuss the impossibility of mobilizing an army and acknowledge the strength of the princess's kidnappers. The majestic, stone-faced man declares that he is willing to risk his entire army for success, but will go to Rivetress's palace alone. A young man with blue hair and glasses addresses the monarch with concern. The elderly advisor suddenly gets up from the table and indignantly declares that another departure of the emperor is unacceptable. The stern monarch orders everyone to be ready. The departure will take place at dawn. A look full of anger notes that all this unpleasant feeling is caused by the king's impudent provocations. A white-haired girl sits on a mystical circle, thinking that she will not just wait with her hands folded. In the corridor of the castle, a maid solemnly rolls tea on a cart. The valet accepts tea from the maid and confidently says that he will sort out the rest himself. A graceful hand with a cup presents the drink with the phrase, "Your Majesty, your tea." The emperor calmly drinks tea and gives the order to dismiss the ministers, while the advisor asks to reconsider the decision on war. Suddenly, the emperor begins to cough up blood and looks at his hand in horror. The valet rushes to him in panic, ordering him to immediately call the court physician. The glass of wine gives off a pleasant aroma, and the white-haired girl irritably notes that in the mornings she always sees the same faces. A red-haired young man with a glass announces that the preparations are complete. He explains that he is preparing to use the princess's power, and the day has come for her to choose a side. The red-haired woman adds that the princess's role in this matter is of the utmost importance. Angrily, the princess demands that he speak directly and not beat around the bush. A bottle of purple potion appears before her, and the princess is asked if she knows what it is. She replies, "Kasha Nubel." The redhead confirms that the potion is often used as a drug, but in some cases it becomes a deadly poison. The red-haired girl, with a grim smile, admits that it was she who gave Kashanubel to the emperor. It is explained that someone who has already been exposed to dark magic may die from internal damage after taking this potion. It is illustrated that dark magic destroys not only the body, but also the soul, and the long-term influence leaves irreparable damage. The emperor, who barely survived his last battle with dark magic, is now in a critical situation. The princess sarcastically asks if the emperor really drank poison out of stupidity. They explain to her that everything was carefully prepared by spies who infiltrated the palace, and it took a lot of time. The red-haired woman asks Cadell to tell her the rest of the plan. It turns out that a magic circle for teleportation had been drawn in the emperor's chambers for a long time. The emperor is unconscious, and the narrator warns that they have little time. The hero, with a mysterious smile, says that the princess will only have to do one thing. When the emperor is teleported, she will have to finish him off. The princess indignantly asks if she is being asked to commit a crime against her own father. The red-haired youth reminds her that her father never showed her anything but hatred. Isabella runs in a panic and begs the princess not to do this. The red-haired woman coldly replies that they are now talking to the princess. Isabella tearfully insists that no matter what the feud, a father always remains a father, and warns that a throne acquired with the blood of relatives will not bring peace. The interlocutor advises Isabella to follow her mistress, since she has chosen this path. Isabella is adamant that she will not allow this to happen under any circumstances. She sternly warns not to even dream of using Her Highness's power for such purposes. Isabella tries to take the princess away, but the girl firmly refuses, saying, "Your Highness, no." In the darkness, the red-haired youth contemptuously calls this boldness outrageous, because Isabella is only the princess's nanny. Isabella lies unconscious on the floor, fallen from the blow. The princess is shocked to realize that Isabella has just been hit. The red-haired boy says with a grin that he did it because of her arrogance. The princess clenches her fist, and magical energy begins to manifest around her. She angrily declares that she has behaved decently so far, but now everyone will have to see her true power. The princess screams that touching Isabella was their fatal mistake and unleashes the elemental force. The red-haired youth and the woman were thrown aside by a powerful blast of magic. The woman, gasping for breath, asks in horror to wait, but is unable to resist the attack. A powerful explosion occurs, destroying everything around and raising clouds of fire. The princess stands before the lifeless bodies of her enemies, her hair flying against the chaos. Alicia bows before the reclining Isabella in the rays of light from the high window. A golden magical ribbon envelops Isabella's cheek, which is gently touched by a hand. Alicia smiles softly in the flickering light of the spell and asks Isabella to come back. Father sits on the edge of the bed, covering his face with his hand and furiously scolding Cadell for being an embedded spy. His bare foot suddenly lands in the center of the flaring magic circle. He comes to his senses tied up on the cold stone floor of a dungeon, with a sword lying nearby. The prisoner looks up and looks suspiciously at the girl standing before him. Realizing that this is not a palace prison, he whispers the name Alicia in surprise, trying to make out a silhouette in the semi-darkness. The girl calmly remarks that if she were an ordinary child, she would already be lying dead. The king warns her that her current actions could be considered treason. The girl with white hair says that if she was going to be rejected as a useless thing, then her life should have been cut short at birth. A man and a girl in a dress hug, and the girl realizes that she understands the bitterness and anger of losing a loved one, but that does not mean that she is to blame. The girl clenches her fist, begging the king to say something. She recalls that he never wanted a child. The girl admits that she did not expect love from her father and did not even hope for it. She confirms that she is right, and an inner voice asks if she has never had the desire to love. The girl attacks the man, and he screams in fear. The heroine, with burning eyes, admits that she still, just a little, hoped for love. A girl with a sword threatens a man sitting in front of her. She says she heard his answer clearly enough, her eyes downcast and holding her sword tightly. The man calmly looks at the sword pointed at him and says that this is also a good outcome. The girl, in tears, raises her hands and asks him to disappear from her sight. Amidst the festive mood, someone announces that the wedding ceremony has already begun. The parade presents Emperor Robertus de Rivetress and Empress Cécile Brognaud. The crowd congratulates the emperor and wishes prosperity to the empire. And the emperor and empress look at each other with love. The emperor tenderly kisses the empress in front of the public. The emperor covers Cécile's eyes with his palms, promising a surprise, and she is surprised and calls him by name. The emperor tells Cécile that she can now open her eyes. Cécile asks admiringly what he wanted to show her, and Rebelle replies that yes, they show a beautiful tree, for which it took a lot of time to create this beauty. The girl looks at the magic tree with surprise and emotion, recognizing it. Cécile thanks Rebelle and hugs him happily. The doctor reports that the empress is sterile, noting her physical weakness. Rebelle turns to Cécile. She calmly replies that this happens and everything is fine. Cécile tells Rebelle with pity that she feels sorry for him, but he asks her not to say that. Rebelle holds Cécile's hand and says that as long as she is with him, he does not need an heir. Cécile, alone on the floor, begs to be allowed to have a child and asks the White Night Witch to see her own child. The blue-haired girl, covering her ears, hears a strange sound and admits that Obel also wanted a child. The girl hopes that he will be able to feel love not only for her, but also for their future child. The girl dreams of a happy family, where both the child and the husband will be happy. Everything was strange, and the heroine bowed her head so as not to anger the emperor. While drinking tea, she reflects that she could destroy not only the emperor, but the entire Eastern Empire. She admits that all the oddities in her were obvious, but she ignored them, pretending that nothing was happening. Cécile addresses the White Night Witch, saying that she and Rebelle did not know what a real family was. She sincerely prays that their child will be the most loved in the world. The witch understands the woman's desperate desire to fulfill her dream and have a child. The witch adds that she also wanted to know what it was like to be loved. The girl says that this is precisely why she imposed restrictions on herself. She casts a spell in the name of desire. Her magic returned to her after the emperor's death, but her powers wavered. As if to prove that she could not harm him, the girl with white hair remembers how she felt a depressing feeling every time she felt unloved. The doctor warns that the empress may not survive the night. Rebelle, in despair, begs Cécile not to leave him, claiming that he cannot live without her. He tells her that they don't want a baby and holds her hand tightly, begging her not to leave. Cécile, smiling, asks Rebelle to stop denying their child and promise that he will love him. Someone remembers that a wonderful herb grows in the Black Forest of the Western Empire, and Cécile turns to Rebelle. Roble decides to find this herb at any cost in order to save his beloved. The girl with blue hair is confused, wondering if someone just looked at her. The girl asks Cecile if she regrets her wish. Cecile mentally says that the 9 months she carried her were the happiest of her life. Cecile smiles weakly and says that there is no need to do anything if you don't want to. The voice tells the girl, "Live your life." The chains that bound the girl are broken, and her wish comes true. The doctors at the bedside explain that the princess has no serious health problems. The doctor suggests that she lost consciousness due to the shock she experienced. The girl lies unconscious, thinking that the blow hit her right in the heart. The baby sleeps in a blanket, and the narrator admits that he could not bring himself to love the child he had obtained at the cost of Cecile's life. The man holds the baby in his arms and realizes that he could not hate Cecile's child. He says that it is not to say that he did not appear at all in the princess's palace. The man admits that he was afraid to get close to his daughter, lest he start to hate her. He always watched his daughter from afar. When he returned from the war and saw her 3 years later, she was standing in the hall with her head down. There was no longer the look of an ordinary child in her eyes. And it was not pretense. The girl says that he doesn't care about her, and there is no expectation of love in her eyes. The man decides that she does not consider him a father, but realizes this too late. The truth was that all this time, she had been desperately longing for love. The man asks in despair why the girl does not come to her senses. The doctor justifies himself by saying that the princess is completely healthy, and this cannot be diagnosed as an illness. A young man with glasses panics and declares that he cannot be killed. A man in the dark asks threateningly, "Why not?" The doctor, in a panic, reminds that only the greatest physician of the empire can help. The man says that if not him, then no one will be able to determine the state of Her Highness. The man abruptly throws the sword to the floor in front of the worried young man. The man asks if this is black magic. Another man replies that there are no symptoms of black magic and asks if it can be fixed. At the moment, according to the doctor, there is no way to help. A man with blue hair orders to gather all the magicians capable of creating a teleportation circle, and he does not understand why. The man decisively announces that they are going to the Western Empire, despite objections due to the war. He says their real target is the Black Forest. The girl finally comes to her senses and asks in surprise where she is. The doctors are worried and happy that the heroine woke up, discussing what they would have done if she had not woken up. The girl asks for clarification of the situation, and the doctor agrees. The doctor says that while Her Highness was unconscious, her father was going to behead everyone if she had not woken up, and the heroine is surprised to herself. An agitated maid runs into the room, asking how she is feeling, and the girl replies that she is fine. The girl asks where her father is and where he went, and the maid and the doctor are at a loss. The maid says that His Majesty has gone to the Black Forest in the west, and the girl is amazed by this. The girl learns that her father left to obtain a miraculous medicinal plant that cures all diseases. The father orders his companion to wait for him where he is so as not to interfere, and goes deeper into the forest. The man reflects on how the Black Forest is filled with monsters guarding the plants, and remembers that 9 years ago, he was unable to get there due to a lack of strength. A man is attacked by ferocious wolves in the forest. In a blood-red splash, the white-haired knight reflects the furious throw of the shadow wolf. A pack of dark wolves with glowing eyes prowls the forest, cautiously searching for prey. With blood staining his cheek, the knight looks around warily among the gloomy trees. He notices a shimmering blue plant and happily realizes that he has found the legendary healing herb. A sudden, swift blow from above makes him look up, realizing the appearance of a formidable guardian of the grass. With a jerk of his sword, the knight repels the first wave of enemy attacks in a blue whirlwind of blades. He quickly dives under the counterpunch, choosing the perfect moment for a decisive counterattack. A powerful blue shield blooms before him, throwing the enemy back with a blast of energy. The dark vision of the bloody tree instills fear of death and reminds him that he must survive for Alicia. Realizing the extent of the risk, he orders himself to return to the palace immediately through the lashing forest rain. 3 men enter the room. The girl with white hair thinks about the 2 who went to the Black Forest, returning safe and sound, and then someone suddenly calls her name. Alicia. The 2 butlers are surprised and notice some strange phenomena, assuming that an earthquake is occurring. A wounded man asks a girl in bed if she touched the Black Forest World Tree. The girl mentally asks the man to say no, and the man himself curses in his thoughts. The girl gives orders to immediately evacuate everyone and advises the man not to show himself. An explosion hits the palace, and a boy with pointy ears appears, asking if anyone is planning to escape. The girl creates a magical barrier, thinking about the stalemate and the many people in the palace. The man with glasses and the other people in the barrier notice that they have not felt strong lately, and then ask what the hell is going on. The girl looks closely and coldly advises to be more careful. A boy with red eyes and pointy ears says he needs a certain guy named Kashane. The girl is surprised to learn that someone has tried to cut off the branches of the world tree. The man and the girl are mentally outraged and consider this the act of an idiot. The boy indignantly declares that he came all this way for this guy and will not let anyone protect him. The girl smiles and says that she is not only a child in body, and that it is worth winning as much time as possible. A boy with a dark aura and a sinister smile offers to continue, wondering how many hundreds of years have passed. The girl is amazed at how widespread black magic has become and notes that even her nose has started to itch. The girl, surrounded by golden light, thinks to herself that everything is happening exactly like this. She raises her hand, concentrating a large amount of magical power into a glowing yellow ball. The girl decisively says that it is time to end this, here and now, and turns to Kashan. The girl with a serious look asks why he destroyed the palace and created chaos. Suddenly, a powerful dark attack falls upon the girl among golden flashes. A bright flash of golden energy collides with black magic. The girl looks around sharply and searches for the enemy in the ruins, wondering where he hid. Suddenly, a boy with black hair attacks her and grabs her by the hair. The girl shouts angrily that he has crossed the line, and if he is caught, it will all be over. The boy smiles and asks if she wasn't going to catch him while holding the black sphere in her hand. He sarcastically suggests that she try again. The girl tensely notices that the boy actually decided to act, but only added to her headache. A man in uniform stands in front of the girl, protecting her, and she looks on with concern. A man with gray hair falls to the ground, struck by black magic. The girl screams in panic, asking what is happening. Another character notices that the man's arm is injured and demands that a doctor be called immediately. The girl firmly declares that they must first go to the emperor's palace. A boy with black hair says that people make a problem out of nothing and gets hit on the head by a girl. A man is lying on a bed, struggling to breathe, likely from a wound he sustained. The girl with the golden glow on her hand is mentally happy that she can now control her power even next to the emperor, and her wish has come true. The girl reasons that the emperor is vulnerable to black magic and could have died from Kashan's blow, but surprisingly holds on. She understands that the wound was caused by black magic, and no mage from the tower can heal it, so a doctor is needed. The girl guesses that perhaps Kashan himself, who inflicted this wound, can heal. A girl with a serious face thinks about herself, adding herself to something important. She confidently enters the brightly lit hall, decorated with flowers. A boy with red eyes greets her, asking if she has arrived. He jokes that the emperor smells bad because of his wound and wonders what she is going to do. The boy reminds her of their blood ties and asks why she doesn't want to cure the emperor herself, and the girl irritably replies that he shouldn't ask stupid questions. The boy laughs at her answer and remarks that she is petty, and also jokes that she is a child not only in body, but also in brain. The girl angrily objects that he has not experienced such difficulties and asks if he understands how she has had to live for all 9 years, and he indifferently replies that he does not care. She angrily asks if he made a contract with King Rivetress, and if he knows how many atrocities he had to clean up after, and he pretends to indifferently agree that she finished him off. The boy finally demands to know what she is going to do with the Empress, and the girl listens with sadness and tension. The girl suddenly gets up from her seat, and the boy laughs after her, and she responds by calling him a little bastard. The red-eyed boy smiles, thinking that the Emperor would be glad that his daughter saved his life. The girl asks everyone to leave so she can talk to the Emperor alone. The two men are surprised, explaining that the Emperor did not even open his eyes. The girl sits at the bedside of the Emperor, who is seriously wounded and unconscious. She places her hand on his forehead, and a golden light comes from her hand, after which the Emperor opens his eyes. The Emperor, turning to Alicia, asks why she defended him if she is familiar with black magic. The girl explains that he already knew how dangerous contact with black magic is. The emperor wearily says that it is all useless, although he still feels pain. The girl ironically notes that this was a stupid answer. The emperor looks at her and asks if she still intends to stand in his way. The emperor sadly admits that he regrets everything. The girl lowers her eyes, and in her thoughts, she hears the emperor's words about his repentance and mistakes. The emperor admits that he was wrong to lock her in the palace. He explains that he was afraid of losing her, just like he once lost someone else, and is not sure he can get his life back on track. The girl replies that she doesn't care, and declares that she doesn't demand anything from the emperor. The emperor says that he does not expect forgiveness, but simply wants to clear up the misunderstanding with his apology. The girl seriously says that a simple apology is not a reason to forget the guilt for everything he did. She heals his hand with golden magic. The girl thinks to herself that the past cannot be returned. What happened cannot be erased, and she cannot forgive him so easily. The girl decisively announces to the emperor that she will become the new empress. The most valuable and rare thing an emperor owns is his throne. The girl clenches her fist and says that it is not the power of desire, but only her own will. She tells the emperor that she needs to show him something. The emperor and the girl walk together along the corridor of the palace. The girl shows the secret room in the imperial palace, where the crown is kept. There are old family portraits hanging on the wall of the room. The girl looks closely at everything that is happening. One of the portraits depicts a male knight holding a child. The emperor asks if she wants to arouse feelings of sympathy in him. He admits that she will not forgive him, and says that he will spend the rest of his life apologizing to her. The emperor says that power is a separate issue, and reminds that he never declared the girl crown princess. The girl confidently asserts that the throne will always be vacant, and anyone can lay claim to it, regardless of blood. She adds with relief that this is exactly what she had hoped for, and she does not need anyone's help to advance to the throne. She agrees and reaches out to take her crown. The emperor asks her to prove that she is worthy of the crown, and advises her to make the throne her own. The girl promises with determination that she will definitely achieve this. People on the street congratulate her on her birthday. The girl is offered to visit the night market in honor of her birthday, and she thanks Isabella. Isabella talks about her plans for the party, but the girl says that she doesn't like lavish events and suggests hurrying up. She then notices the playbill and asks in surprise if Isabella wanted to see the play. Isabella happily says that she wants to see this romantic play and invites everyone to go to it quickly. The girl and Isabella watch the performance together, impressed by the touching story. After the performance, Isabella suggests choosing a cute mask at the fair. The girl chooses a cat mask and wonders why a cat. Isabella explains that she chose her because the girl gets along with cats. A mysterious masked man appears and asks if she gets along with cats. The girl catches a glimpse of a memory of a couple from the past. She is surprised and wonders what this memory is. Isabella is worried, but the girl assures that everything is fine and offers to go back, taking her hand. As they walk, bright fireworks bloom in the sky, and the girl looks up with a smile. As the seasons change, the surrounding landscape changes too, filling with light, flowers and butterflies. Petals swirl above the ground, leaves change color and fall, and snow falls and melts again and again. The girl looks tiredly out the window, thinking about how quickly the constant snow becomes boring. 9 years fly by unnoticed, colored by different seasons. The princess is asked to prepare for a meeting with the duke's daughter, and she happily agrees. The maid asks if she can collect the princess's hair, and she agrees. Another maid asks what dress she wants to wear, and the girl chooses pink, her favorite one. Everyone admires her beauty and thinks that the dress she chose suits her very well. The maid reminds him that it is His Majesty's birthday and suggests throwing a banquet. But there are no ideas yet. At dinner, father and daughter sit together in silence, not touching on important topics. Two maids discuss how if they hold a party at the palace after so much time, the emperor will receive several gifts at once. Another maid asks His Highness if he has already decided what to give His Majesty as a gift. The main character thoughtfully asks herself again about the gift. The heroine visits a store, where she is thanked for her purchase and invited to come again. On the street, Elizabeth asks the heroine if she is sure of her choice and says that she knows many other jewelry shops. The heroine replies that she had considered the idea with the brooch from the very beginning and assures that everything is fine. The heroines have a conversation at the fountain where they ask about their recent trip with their fiancé. Elizabeth invites the heroine to visit and wants to show her the roses she was given. The main character agrees with a smile to come next time. Elizabeth suddenly asks if the heroine has ever thought about marriage, since she is already of marriageable age. The heroine replies that she hasn't thought about marriage yet, but she is asked not to delay it. On a busy street, someone shouts that there is a pickpocket here, and everyone turns around. A young man runs down the street in panic, shouting for everyone to make way. The girls notice that the pickpocket is running straight towards them. Elizabeth calls out to the heroine with alarm. The heroine uses magic, sending a blue glow towards the thief. The pickpocket is enveloped in a magical force and lifted into the air. He screams in surprise. The heroine holds a magical artifact in her hand with concentration, controlling the situation. The thief finds himself tied up, not expecting such an outcome. The heroine returns the stolen item to its owner, and the grateful girl happily accepts it. Elizabeth says she was lucky the princess was there. The heroine asks Elizabeth to step forward a little, and she wonders if something is wrong. The heroine decides to hand over the caught pickpocket to the police station. With a slight grin, the heroine says that she is simply making sure that the police are doing their job well. At dinner, the main character sits at a long table and eats quietly. The heroine's interlocutor asks about the commotion in the central square, and she assures him that nothing special happened. They have a humorous discussion at the table about how long the heroine will go out without an escort. The man asks if the heroine really fired the Baron from the security department. A comical flashback shows the Baron begging for forgiveness, while the heroine responds quite decisively. The heroine is mentally indignant that the Baron pocketed the money for the country's security and thinks that he cannot be killed, but he can be fired. The heroine explains that as a princess, she could not act alone when she fired the Baron. The man calmly answers no to her question, and the heroine looks at him attentively. He says that if she made such a decision, then there was a reason for it. The hall is discussing the fact that in 6 days, an envoy from the West is expected to arrive on the eve of the Emperor's birthday. The heroine confirms that the messenger will be attending the birthday banquet and is asked if she is sure. The man thinks that this is a good time for a visit from a delegation from the Western Empire, and the heroine is glad that she has already bought a gift. The heroine reports that there will be a special person among the delegation of the Western Empire. The officer notes the Highness's good mood and asks if she is expecting anything special. The young man in the fancy uniform hopes that they will arrive soon. The heroine enters the bedroom, where she asks Isabella what she is doing, and she answers with a smile that she was making the bed. The heroine tells Isabella that cleaning is the job of other servants, and advises her to rest since there are more servants. Isabella explains that she used to help not only with cleaning, but also with the princess's preparations and walks. The heroine suddenly asks if Isabella should find a husband, and she wonders where she can find a husband at her age. The heroine jokingly says that one day Isabella might want to find a husband, and Isabella replies that those were hard times. Isabella remarks that the heroine is in her prime for marriage, and the heroine replies that she does not believe in the one and only. Isabella asks about the book the heroine is reading, and she tells her that she is preparing for the arrival of a delegation from the Western Empire with a prince. The heroine shows a page with information about the crown prince of the Western Empire. The illustration shows Prince Adrian of Ireland, born of a concubine. It is said that he had a difficult childhood and had to endure condemnation. Despite this, by the age of 10, he was able to surpass all his brothers in exams and become the crown prince, which the heroine considers a very interesting story. The princess, with a mysterious smile, admits that she is waiting for his arrival. At the palace at the emperor's court, the arrival of an ambassador from the Western Empire of Ireland is announced. Crown Prince Adrian of Ireland appears before the royal family in a luxurious outfit. The princess notes that he has blue hair and gray eyes, and does not look at all like the emperor of the Western Empire. Hadrian Arlanda greets Emperor Lapetia and says he is glad to meet him. The prince presents gifts from the Western Empire to the emperor and hopes that they will be accepted. The emperor thanks for the gifts and informs that VIP rooms have been prepared for the guests, inviting them to rest until the evening. Adrian respectfully thanks for the concern and makes an appeal to the emperor. The prince officially declares that he has come with a proposal for the Empire of Lapizia. The princess, called the Star of the Eastern Empire, watches what is happening carefully. Adrian smiles and hopes that the princess will go to the Western Academy. The princess categorically refuses and asks why she needs to go there. The courtiers convince her that this is a great opportunity for exchange between empires, and that in 30 years they have not established good communication. One of the advisors adds that the Western Empire's academy is famous for its high level of knowledge, and the heroine could learn a lot. The princess jokingly states that there is no point in going there. The advisor suggests that they at least take a knowledge test, because diplomatic solutions were not required today. He also wonders whether the Westerners are offering their exchange out of flattery, and whether it is actually beneficial. The advisor recalls how 9 years ago he asked her to prove her abilities, and now offers to evaluate her knowledge. The princess stubbornly says no, and that's it. The emperor notes that there is still time before the return of the delegation of the Western Empire. The emperor says that if the princess changes her mind, then the delegation will be given an answer. At the ball, the princess enjoys a drink and rests near a column. A young man approaches the princess and invites her to dance. The princess says with a smile that she won't be able to dance because she has twisted her ankle. In a humorous scene, the gentleman accepts her refusal with understanding, and the princess thanks him. Another young man asks in surprise what twisted ankle they were talking about, and the princess admits that she made it up as an excuse. He expresses dissatisfaction with her refusals and complains that she always uses him as a partner, to which she replies that he is still young and therefore suitable for her. The princess leaves the hall, mentally noting that she does not consider any of those present as a husband. Adrian approaches her and greets her, asking if she is having a good time at the ball. Suddenly, he asks for forgiveness and turns to the princess with excitement. Adrian looks at the princess in surprise and says, "Really?" He asks her if she remembers him. A flashback is given. Adrian Arland is the son of a concubine who was humiliated for not having imperial blood. It shows how Hadrian was bullied as a child, even by his half-brothers, but he was still nominated as a candidate for testing the heir to the throne. The condition of the test was to bring an object that best represented the emperor, and Hadrian decided to do everything to save his mother. Memories are transported back 9 years to the Kraken Lake. Little Adrian sits down on the grass and thinks that everything is going wrong. He understands that he can't do anything because of the octopus in the lake, because one wrong move and the monster will tear him apart. To complete the task, you need to bring an object that symbolizes the emperor, and in case of failure, he will become a laughingstock for those who were against his nomination. Hadrian feels lost and doesn't know what to do or what can depend on him. A girl fights a huge water monster near a lake with the help of golden chains. The mysterious girl warns not to approach the lake, hinting that something dangerous is hiding there. The girl meets the crown prince and is surprised by his appearance. Baron Blanche welcomes the star of the Eastern Empire at the reception and introduces himself as the escort of the Western delegation. The man tells the blue-haired prince that they are looking for him, and he asks in surprise why. The prince says goodbye to the girl, calling her princess, and wishes her a pleasant evening. The man asks if the star of the Eastern Empire brought a gift to the emperor. The girl explains with a smile that the gift is too small and that she gave it in advance, but she admits to herself that she simply forgot. Baron Blanche ponders what great gift the star of the Eastern Empire could bring. The girl ironically clarifies about the great gift and asks if her interlocutor hasn't heard. The Baron recalls that the crown prince personally hunted the wolf and presented it to the emperor for his birthday. The Baron, with a haughty smile, remarks that such an achievement is an impossible task for a lady. The girl confidently says that there is no better gift than wolf fur. The Baron happily agrees and laughs, confirming her words. The girl apologizes and says she'll be gone for a minute. The Baron is surprised to notice that the girl has disappeared, and the prince asks if the princess has left. The Baron, shocked, explains to the prince that the princess suddenly teleported before his eyes. The prince and Baron watch in shock as the princess appears before the huge wolf. Panic breaks out among the guests. Everyone is surprised by the appearance of the monster and asks why the wolf is here. The princess and the wolf appear before the crowd and ask the Baron a question. The girl says with a confident smile that if she is going to give a wolf, then only this one. She reflects that it is not in her nature to avoid a fight, and wonders how they dared to challenge her. The prince bows and apologizes for the Baron. Turning to the princess replies that everything is fine, and it is not the crown prince's fault. The prince asks the princess if she would like to go to the Western Empire, but she categorically refuses. The prince says regretfully that he had hoped she would come, and he is sorry. The girl asks the prince why he wanted this. The prince confesses that he is in love with the princess and that this has been going on for a long time. The girl is surprised that they just met, but the prince explains that they met 9 years ago. The prince smiles and says that he remembers their first meeting, even if she doesn't. The girl offers to go with her to the Western Empire Academy, and the interlocutor asks why he should go there. She reminds him that he likes places like academies, and without her, he will whine and complain, to which he agrees. The guy seriously asks why they need to go there, and doubts that it is really important. The girl replies that she was just curious, and he asks again if she is really interested. The heir to the Western Empire shows his interest in what is happening. The girl thoughtfully repeats that she is really interested. The guy retells it in a boyish style, and she remembers his words about love at first sight. The heroes gather at the building to leave. Servants see them off, and the carriage is already ready. The young man wishes the girl a safe journey. The representative reports that His Majesty was unable to come in person due to state affairs, and the girl understands that nothing can be done. The girl thinks that urgent state affairs are just an excuse, and the emperor is sitting with papers. She bids farewell to the crown prince with a smile and asks him to return safely, surprised that she said it too artificially. The prince expresses his feelings by respectfully kissing the girl's hand. He promises to remember her until the next time they meet and looks tenderly into her eyes. The prince asks with concern to be safe. The girl, with the help of magic or teleportation, ends up in another place. The emperor sees her and asks in surprise what happened. The girl explains that she decided to come first because he didn't say anything even when the delegation was leaving. The emperor replies that he has already received a report about the delegation of the Western Empire from the Citadel. The girl notes to herself that the emperor has already decided for her that she will not go to the academy. The girl writes an application for admission to the Western Empire Academy and explains that if it is only because of the ministers, then it is not worth it. The emperor says that even if there has been no exchange with the Western Empire for a long time, it is not critical. But the girl objects that this is not the point. The girl says that she is entering the academy because she decided to do so herself. The emperor agrees and asks if she will regret her choice, to which the girl replies that she will not. She asks the emperor to put his seal and approve her decision according to the document he is reviewing. The girl smiles and says that she will stay at the academy until she loses interest in the Western Empire. The emperor asks if the crown prince is one of the reasons for her decision, and she replies, "Don't worry about it." A girl dressed as Alicia tells her companion that she's leaving and signs that her age and appearance are suitable for the role. Her princess friends are saddened by her departure, but she asks them not to exaggerate, because she will only be leaving for a year. A man in military uniform wishes her a safe journey, addressing her as Your Highness. The princess tells her companion to do his job better, and she will check the data upon her return. Isabella promises to write every day and holds the princess's hand as she says goodbye. Isabella asks the princess to take care of herself and not skip meals, and she assures that everything will be fine. The princess asks Isabella to also eat well, sleep, and not be sad, even if she is not around. The companion is annoyed by the repeated goodbyes and asks to stop. He activates the magic circle, preparing to teleport. Before the eyes of Isabella and her companion, the princess disappears, and the majestic academy of the Western Kingdom appears. A scream is heard over the academy. An indignant girl scolds a guy for teleporting, interrupting a conversation with Isabella. The princess angrily scolds her bodyguard for teleporting without permission, despite the presence of other students. She puts up with the act for the sake of the handmaids, noting that they could have teleported everyone away and avoided the drama, while her advisor is still uneasy. The maid announces that it is time to go to the entrance exam and hands the guy a bag, and he wonders why only him. The princess confidently says that her registration at the academy has already been completed by the royal side of the Western Empire. A guy with a bag leaves for an exam and thinks irritably about the situation. The bald man greets the princess joyfully and calls it an honor to receive her here. He introduces himself as Mushu, the escort of the Eastern Empire star, and is greeted by his new acquaintances. Mushu explains that he was waiting for her at the port, but upon hearing about her arrival at the academy, he hurried to meet her and apologizes for being late. The princess replies with a smile that everything is fine and mentally scolds her bodyguard for his careless use of the teleporter. Mushu offers to take her to the hotel, and at that moment, a familiar blonde appears and recognizes him. The blonde asks in surprise what the princess is doing here. Mushu and the blonde are having a nice conversation, discussing preparations for the arrival of new students. Mushu apologizes to the princess and introduces the girl. She is a young lady from the Bellaria family, one of the 3 count families of the Western Empire. Lady Bellaria turns to her interlocutor and clarifies that before her is the princess of the Eastern Empire. The princess notes to herself that this is the girl who should become her youngest, and watches her in surprise. Lady Bellaria looks at the princess with interest and mentally asks again if this is really a real princess in front of her. The princess is confused, trying to understand what is happening, and notes to herself that everything is strange. Lady Bellaria, with a slight smile, says that she is late with her greeting and calls it an honor to meet the star of the Eastern Empire. The girl formally introduces herself as Erica Bellaria of the Ducal House of Bellaria of the Western Empire. The princess is glad to meet her and politely greets her new acquaintance. Erica says she heard about Princess's transfer mid-semester and is excited to meet her in person. The princess thanks her for the warm welcome, and Erica quickly shares the news that the crown prince personally accompanied the princess to the Eastern Empire. And for reference, she is also a third-year student, just like His Highness. Erica says that she is the closest to the prince in the academy, and the princess internally realizes the awkwardness of the situation. The girls exchange polite offers of help in case of difficulties or need. Several days pass, and an important event occurs at the academy. The princess, tired and sleepy, wonders how long this formal reception will last. The presenter announces the presentation of an award to the best student. The focus is on the name of the best student, Kashan. The girls discuss why Kashan seems so irresistible. Kashan, recognized as the best student, receives admiring glances from others. He is officially awarded for his outstanding performance in magic in the entrance exam. New students are asked to find their names on the list and go to the dormitory. Everyone is informed that their roommate will not change during the 3 years of study. The listing shows that the room will be shared by Alicia de Fevshire and Isabel Rona. Alicia asks Kashan if he is happy, and he philosophically reasons that such things are needed for a good relationship. Kashan jokingly states that he is her only friend, but Alicia replies that she has no friends. Kashan is shocked, taken aback by Alicia's reaction to his words. Alicia finds her room and is surprised to note that this is her place. She tries to remember the name of her neighbor and thinks to herself that it is someone like Isabella. Isabel Rona looks at Alicia in surprise when she enters the room. Isabel quickly introduces herself and bows shyly, identifying herself as her neighbor Alicia. Alicia smiles warmly and says sincerely that she is glad to meet Isabella. The girl with short blonde hair is surprised and says that it is a great honor for her. A girl enters the room and asks if she can take one of the beds, to which she quickly agrees and offers to choose any side. The main character calls her Isabella. The white-haired girl, sitting on the bed, asks what faculty Isabella is studying in, and she answers that she is studying in the fencing faculty. The girl with white hair says that the fencing department suits her very well. Isabella asked embarrassedly if they were joking with her. Isabella says that others think this path is not for her, but her interlocutor remains silent. Isabella sits on her bed, wondering if it could be because of her appearance. The white-haired girl says that this is not true and confirms that the fencing department suits Isabella the best. The white-haired girl assures Isabella to be more confident. The sun is shining outside, and the girl thanks her high-ranking interlocutor, who says that she simply expressed her thoughts. A shy girl with short blonde hair asks to be addressed as Bet. The girl with white hair smiles and agrees to call her Bet. Bet enthusiastically invites Her Highness to dine with her, and she accepts. At the table, someone remarks that this year's new students are quite nice, and another replies that it's nice to see. The girl with long dark hair mentally confesses that she came to the cafeteria to look at the handsome crown prince. She is upset that she finds herself at the same table with boys she doesn't like, calling them disgusting. One of the guys approaches the girl familiarly, making unpleasant hints and offering to spend time together. The girl can't take it anymore, pours water on the guy, and mentally says that she can't stand it anymore because they are ugly. The wet and angry guy shouts why she doesn't want to talk to them, and the girl quietly replies that she doesn't want to at all. An angry guy swings his arm to hit a girl, and she fears that she is finished. Suddenly, someone grabs his hand and he asks, stunned, "What's going on?" The girl with white hair suddenly knocks the guy to the floor with a bright flash. The assembled students watch as the boy comes to on the floor, and someone asks if he is okay. The snow-white girl calmly informs him that he is unconscious. At the meeting, they announce that it is over and thank everyone for their hard work. A girl with long blonde hair reports on the completion of document preparation, and a guy with blue hair praises her work. The blue-haired boy thanks the girl for staying to help. She modestly replies that as vice president, she must be there, and both agree to finish work for the day. The girl, with an embarrassed smile, wonders if she can invite him to dinner. The girl with long blonde hair shyly addresses the young man with blue hair and calls him Your Highness. She excitedly invites him to have dinner together if he is not busy. The girl is surprised by the young man's intense gaze and does not understand what he has in mind. A snow-white girl is talking to a dark-haired girl, and their silhouettes are visible outside the window against the backdrop of the evening landscape. The young man asks the girl with a smile to repeat what she said earlier. She quietly replies, confused, so that he shouldn't worry about it. The guy says he has some urgent business to attend to and invites her to go with him, and she agrees. The girl with long dark hair introduces herself as Daisy Innersense, the daughter of Count Innersense. Daisy thanks her interlocutor, admitting that without her, she would have found herself in an unpleasant situation. The snow-white girl replies that there is no need for gratitude because she simply kicked the rude people out of the restaurant. The girl recalls that if it weren't for the help of her interlocutor, she would have had to endure the nasty looks of the boys. Daisy happily admits that she understood everything from the first meeting. She realizes how stupid it was to only pay attention to handsome boys. The girl admires the silver hair and kind eyes of her savior. She is inspired by her courage in defending others. Daisy delightedly admits that her interlocutor is simply amazing. Daisy says that for the first time her heart is so full of feelings, not for a guy, but for the person she is talking to. She sheepishly apologizes for being overly emotional. The girl smiles and says that she is glad to receive such a sincere compliment. Excited, Daisy promises to always help if needed, and her interlocutor thanks her. Daisy says an awkward goodbye and runs off energetically. The young man with blue hair says that he hasn't seen the crown prince for a long time. In a comical style, he explains that he was busy and couldn't visit earlier, and the girl coldly replies that it's not a big deal. The guy smiles and suggests that we address him informally, like last time. The girl recalls that she had already switched to informal address after his confession. She asks again, in a reserved tone, if he wants them to switch to informal address unilaterally. The guy happily agrees if it is really her initiative. There is talk on the notice board about the upcoming freshman dance in 3 days, and the girl replies that she already heard about it at lunch. The young man invites her to dance with him at this ball. It's the day of the freshman party, and the sun is shining brightly over the building. At the ball, a girl in a blue dress asks Lady Daisy if she has seen the princess. Daisy replies that she is also looking for the princess, but she is not here. A young man with red hair reads a book while standing by the window in the rays of the sunset. They make eye contact with a white-haired girl who enters the room. The white-haired girl confidently tells the boy that he must be very smart. The guy is surprised when and how she ended up here, because he didn't even notice her presence. She asks if he finds the book difficult, and he sheepishly replies that he doesn't really. The girl is surprised to see him reading a book that most magicians have difficulty understanding, and repeats that he is definitely very smart. Suddenly, the guy stands up abruptly and shouts that this is not so, frightening the girl. He clenches his fist and screams that he is completely stupid as he runs away, leaving the girl perplexed. The guy runs away while the white-haired girl thinks to herself that he is definitely cute. The princess sits on a bench, looking tired, and asks when this party will end, while she is advised not to follow her example. She recalls how she refused to go to the ball because it was too much trouble, and even refused the crown prince's invitation. She was simply bored. The friend finally finds the princess and happily calls out to her, bringing Bete with her. Friends persuade the princess to join the celebration and enjoy it. In the hall, guests raise their glasses, and other couples dance at the ball. The princess hears the question of where she was, because someone almost died from waiting for the meeting. With a smile and a glass in hand, she admits that it is nice to meet everyone, and after that, she finally gives in. At the same time, she is mentally worried about ending up behind the curtain with the crown prince, whom she has already rejected. and is afraid that he will discover her. New acquaintances, including the vice president, approach the princess, greet her, and are happy to see her again at the academic ball. The girl in the company introduces the new ladies and greets the princess as the star of the Eastern Empire, adding that it is nice to meet you. It turns out that one of them is Lady Francine, who is also learning magic. The girl clarifies that Francine can provide assistance if needed. The golden guest clarifies that if the princess ever needs support, Francine can be safely contacted. The princess with the glass reacts with embarrassment to the intrusive offer, mentally noting the complete disregard. A young man appears in the crowd, whom the princess recognizes as the same guy she met earlier. One of the girls, looking down, asks again what was just said. The girl repeats that Francine is also learning magic and suggests turning to her for help. The princess nods in agreement. The princess politely thanks for the offer of help. The girl says with a smile that helping the younger ones is natural and announces that from now on, Francine will be her assistant, but conceals her true motives. The princess doubts that she will need anyone's help and does not believe that Francine will be able to help at all. The dancing begins, the girls discuss their partners, and one of them decides to look for the crown prince. A guy approaches a group of girls and says that he was looking for them. The crown prince greets everyone with a smile. A girl with long blonde hair shyly prepares to offer a dance. The crown prince offers his hand to the princess and asks if he can invite her to dance. The princess feels excited by the attention of others and agrees to accept the invitation. The prince and princess dance together at the ball, surrounded by a festive atmosphere and flowers. The princess remembers that last time she refused him a similar invitation to dance. The prince replies with a smile that he decided to try his luck again because the princess came to the ball. The prince asks worriedly if he has put the princess in a difficult situation, and she gently replies that he has not at all. The blonde looks at them with dark displeasure, and the princess notices that she is clearly angry. An inspired Bet enthusiastically compliments the princess as an embarrassed red-haired boy passes by and stops. The young man watches in amazement as the prince leads the princess in a dance amidst the glittering ball, quietly uttering her title.